build and...
I gotcha.
Somebody yesterday was like, they're like, "Oh, are you done with the podcast already?" And I was like, "Oh shit! Oh no, yeah, we don't have it today."
Well, that's what I was thinking. Let me think. I might have like stayed up way too late playing Tarkov on Thursday, and then it was like Friday, and I was like, wait a minute. Are we doing Saturday this week or next week? And I went back and I was like, oh.
Yeah, I felt like Saturday was yesterday as well for some reason. I don't know why.
All
Long
right.
weekend.
Oh, why is my thing doing this? Why does it always have to be a pain? Nope.
What's a pain?
My stupid green screen.
What is
Dude,
a
the
pain?
lights that are on his desk
Oh.
randomly sometimes turn on in the middle of the night,
And I
and they're
mean,
literally like
the power of the sun.
shining sun right in my eyes.
Yeah,
Like just like where I sleep in the bed, like compared to where his computer is,
Huh.
it just like boom wakes me up, and I'm like,
I've got them at 2%. At 100%, it's like the light of the sun. It's like, what is going on?
Why do they turn on in the middle of the night?
Something
though?
to
That
do.
seems
I
like-
don't know.
Something to
Yeah.
do with the Wi-Fi
That's true.
channel that the remote's on. Like, and I've tried changing
Oh.
channels, but like I can't seem to find one that doesn't get hit by something at some point.
It's just like
Bizarre.
randomly all of a sudden it's very bright in our house, and I'm like we'll be over watching TV too, and I'll be like,
What just happened? Yeah, it's really weird. Oh,
that's what you get for getting the cheap lights, baby.
I know. Should have just went with Elgato. Ready to do this?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, this is just for me.
I feel like I'm just gonna clap randomly in the show just to mess up Bob.
Welcome to Warcraft Reloaded, a podcast brought to you by Mash Those Buttons, covering World of Warcraft Classic, now TBC Classic, and its community. I am Bobby, also known as Blazin' Bob, and today we are joined by Mel, aka Melarina. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good. It's not Friday, so I'm like much more refreshed.
Yep, definitely. Yeah,
Usually
it's a
I
lot.
come on with been a long day of work. I'll get there.
We always perk up by the end, but we're also joined by Ryan, aka Cognitive Pit. How you doing?
I'm good. I feel the same way. Saturday's, I'm still tired, like I always say anytime we do it on Saturday, but it's nice not coming off of working all day.
Well, maybe we'll have to look at that in the future. But for now, we also have special guest returning to the show, WillE. How you doing?
Hello. Thanks for having me on again. I thought today was yesterday, but today's today.
Welcome
I'm
to
feeling pretty
today.
good about it.
Oh man,
Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
it kind of is that way currently doing PvP, but we will get to that. So the show today, we've got a nice lively show for you. We're gonna go through housekeeping, then we're gonna go through what WillE's been doing in TBC and his journey so far, then what we've been doing, and maybe a little bit in raid progress, and then we've got a little bit of news, and then we're gonna discuss at the end, should streamers get special privileges from devs and MMOs? So stick around and check it out. I want to remind everybody that we always stream on Twitch live at Mash Those Buttons. That's twitch.tv/Mash Those Buttons. Yep. We had a couple reviews this week.
Yes, we did. We have quite a few.
Like they're making up for our dry spell last week, you know.
everyone really comes together here. Actually, a couple of them were mailed to me, and in a way that I could have read them last week, but I just forgot to add them in. But the first one and the first few are from Apple Podcast Reviews. Great podcast. Love the podcast and guests they have on for different viewpoints. It's nice to have Alliance players to mauld with and put my struggle into words as an ally on a PvP server. Best WoW podcast around, and hope it continues as long as Classic does. Bob, meet me in chat as agreed for my payment for this review.
The
Wow.
secret's out. The
Wow.
secret's out.
Wow.
Bob does
Yeah.
always brag about how much money he has, so it could be that this is what's going on here.
Melton never brags about how much money she has, so I'm not paying anybody.
He does that, and then again, I think last week you owed Mel 2,800 gold or something.
Uh-huh.
I paid it back
Yeah.
though. I paid it back.
Okay.
How do you owe 2,800? That's a
Well, because
that's a lot.
we both worked up our alts, and then she gave me all of her gold, allowed me to get my epic mount first.
Okay, listen, he hit 70
see.
like a half a day before I did, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll pay you back, and then we can get your epic mount." And I'm like, "I feel like this is not gonna go the way I want it to."
That's a
He's
lot
like,
of
"You
gold.
have flight form," and I'm like, "Yeah, flight form is a slow mount."
It's worse than a slow mount,
Icon's
isn't
a
it?
struggle.
No, I
Isn't-
think it's the same.
I thought it was 50% flight form,
I don't
and
know.
and mounts are 60.
I think
It
it's
They're all
60.
feels
If it's not
like
epic,
I'm.
it feels horrible.
Yeah,
It
Yeah.
feels like
does.
I'm just gliding.
I just want to
And
put it out there.
barely
I was
moving.
calling this way before TBC. Not a lot of people remembered this, but I was like flying on a slow mount. It's just swimming through the air. It's unbelievably like frustrating as you do it. But we have more reviews to get through. The next one is from Boemir on Bigglesworth. Knowledge and fun wrapped in one. Found your podcast a few weeks ago and have been listening backwards ever since. A knowledgeable group with a good mix of all archetypes to pipe in on whatever you're playing. The most fun has been listening to the current episodes. It's nice to hear what other people are going through at the same time. Very fun and relevant. Also, have to say, the general positivity from all three hosts is extremely refreshing. Keep the episodes pumping, guys. These two reviews are... In one review we're molding, and the next one we're very positive.
Well, I think we are generally more positive most of the time. I think just the last couple episodes have been a little rough, but I mean, we're back to form now.
Yeah.
We brought on our alliance brethren here, so we're ready.
The next two reviews are actually on the Warcraft radio reviews. The first one is from Caldera. Hey guys, just started listening at the launch of TBC, and we have been playing Classic since launch. I thoroughly enjoy the show, and your banter from each person's perspective is great, as I have been in each role sometime or another. I'm curious what your take is on the transition from 40 to 25 mans. As the leader of our second 25-man team, I know it's been hard at times to balance the rosters, and you guys had mentioned you were starting your second team. We just got ours started and we cleared it all, but it's going to be harder in phase 2. We'd love to hear your thoughts and maybe even chime in. Keep up the good work. Your entertaining voices are valued. Caldera on Atiesh, raid lead of Team 2 from the guild. That's actually... maybe we should talk about that during raid progression, because I do have a few things to talk about for 25-man and getting your 25-man, second 25-man set up and things like that. So
sounds good to me.
Good time to talk about it. And then the other Warcraft radio review. Hey guys, love the show. Keep pumping out the great content. I've never reviewed a podcast before, but wanted to get my idea out there for the same faction BGs. So here I am. If the reason Horde queues are so long is because Alliance aren't doing BGs, why not allow Alliance to complete the BG daily multiple times per day? Maybe 3 times a day instead of once. I think Alliance needs some sort of incentive to queue up, and I don't think Honor would be as effective as Gold. Just a thought. Love y'all. Beef Chief Tauren Druid of Westfall PvE. Big fan. Big fan of Taurens, first of all. If you're going to play Horde, big fan of Taurens. And Beef Chief is an excellent name. I'm also a big fan of ideas like this. I think that even if we're going to include same faction BGs at some point, I think I've mentioned before, I think the best thing to do is still have some sort of locked queue where there's some amount of wait time. But any incentive to get Alliance PvPing, I think, is overall, I think, a good thing. I'd be worried about any sort of gold incentives that are too large, just because you don't want to create hyperinflation or anything like that, as it's already going to happen. But I think 3 extra dailies probably wouldn't cause that. But yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Any kind of incentive, I think, would work. The next two were actually mailed to me. One's from Elwar, who was actually in chat. I had to write you, Mel, and Bob a review after you gave me a shout out on the last podcast. I keep running into Kim Jong Un in the in the open world and have nicknamed them famous after hearing about them on the podcast so much. I'm a huge fan. I left WoW when Pandaria dropped, and I've been loving every minute of Classic since I came back. I made a Horde tune, but after getting hooked on the podcast, I decided to go Alliance this time. Keep up
Woo!
the good work for the Alliance. I appreciate
Oh,
you
yeah,
going
brother.
Alliance. we need more. Listen, we have being an underdog brings about a level of camaraderie that you can't get on the Horde. You know, you go Horde, everyone goes Horde, but
Well, and
Don't be a
Alliance
follower.
we've been
together
joking.
strong.
We've been joking about Alliance like since phase 2, tripping you as they run by past the Horde. But as of late, man, my brothers on freaking Whitemane have been like stopping, helping. Like I've been stopping, helping. It's kind of a little bit of a
Getting
culture
better, for
change
sure.
starting.
I think the Horde versus Horde BGs, it's not that Horde ended up going to BGs and they're not ganking as much anymore, but Alliance are just kind of mad about it. So we're
Yeah.
fighting back more in the open world. We just don't want to give in and
It could be.
give up. The next one, it's a little embarrassing to read because of how genuinely nice it is. But I'm gonna read it because it brings up some good points. But I listened to y'all's podcast from last week, and just now your guest spot on Countdown. If you haven't heard it, I did a little spot with Josh on Countdown to Classic, yelling, mauling, if you will, about the BGs. I just want to go out of my way to say thank you. Your critical thought, genuine passion, and clear articulation have been a breath of fresh air over the course of listening to and reading about these recent proposed changes. As a casualty of Scarum Phase 2, I wish you and your server good fortune and healthy factions. Happily transferred, Paladaddy, also from Westfall PvE. So maybe you can go hang out with Beef Chief.
Yeah,
The 400.
he had to be talking
Chief and
about.
Paladaddy.
He had to be talking about you or Mel because articulate isn't how I've been the past few weeks. It's been more like, okay, I can't talk anymore.
I think he was specifically talking about Yep.
Yeah, I think the countdown I tried to articulate as well as I could on countdown. So, but yeah, I mean, I wanted to especially read that because he is a casualty of Phase 2, a wonderful example of a PvP player who ended up moving to PvE, and they're happily transferred, and that was my main concern for all of the Alliance players who may go down that same route. But thank you, Paladaddy, and thank you everyone for your reviews and your messages.
And also to follow that up, I got a few messages from people thinking that I hate PvE players. I just want to clear that up. I do not. I was saying in my perfect world, everybody would be involved in PvP. I did not properly articulate that. So no, I do not hate PvE players. I'm sorry that I gave off that impression.
It was pretty funny. It was a pretty radical stance you took. You were like, PvE servers shouldn't even exist.
I'm being targeted.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I do understand that people do love PvE servers, and I don't hate on them. I don't think it's dumb. Like, I just wanted to clear that up. I just said, my perfect world, every player would be there clashing, because that's just what I want, But that's, we all have wants and needs, and some of them are different. But WillE, how have you
Hello.
been doing in TBC Classic? We haven't talked to you since release.
No, it's been feels like it's been all go. I've been playing a little bit, I guess. So obviously I've got the main, that's the Warlock. An expansion first launch, I approached it quite a bit different from Classics. I had sort of a guild that I was more established with, and we went full on dungeon grind.
Yep, same.
I think over like 2 days there wasn't more than like 4 hours of sleep, and it was pretty much non-stop. I think we got capped on like day 2 or 3. I don't know. The days just sort of merged together into like one mega day.
Yeah.
But that was really fun, actually. I really like doing that. I wish I could do that more often. I just know it's not really like good in any single way whatsoever. Even though maybe that's why it's fun.
I don't know if you happened to catch the first podcast after release, but we were like, and then we did this, and then we did this. We were so delirious.
I mean, it's all about the slave pens memes, the you go into slave pens to save the slaves, but then you realize they're worth rep, and you're like, Cenarian Circle. Why do you want us to do this? What is the point? I thought we were meant to save them.
Oh no.
But yeah, I got my locked cap. Obviously, and then I've been raiding on it, been claiming all the content. It's no problem. I've got my alt, who is a paladin, who was initially planned to be prop, but there was tons of interest from mainly tank players who were already main tank players but wanted to play a second tank to play prop. So I ended up playing Ret, and I nearly have them at Prebis. I'm one Primal Never off Lionheart's champion,
Oh, nice.
and I
Nice.
have pretty much the rest of the gear. And then I also have a Druid at 70, which I
Woo.
don't know, I just kind of like Resto. And I've cleared Outland of all the quests on my Paladin and Warlock. All three of my characters have epic mounts. I have pretty much all the crafted gear on Paladin and Warlock. In preparation, I set up like 5 alchemists and 6 tailors. So that on top of
Nice.
questing money, and of course the GM of the guild who runs the gem market for metas on the server basically sends me mats every day for all of my cooldowns. So I just,
Nice.
went to Cenarian Circle, bought loads of plant parts, handed in, got to Honoured, bought the token, the rep thing for, what was it? Not the Skyfire, the other
Oh,
one.
the
Storm Diamond.
oh yes,
Yeah,
is it
been
is
making those daily.
yeah, I'm forgetting the name of it too.
The Skyfire Diamond
Um,
with alchemy?
uh,
Is that what you're saying?
the Earthstorm.
Earthstorm,
Yeah,
yes.
it's like
Earthstorm.
Relentless Earthstorm, the one that's like 3% crit and some agility.
Mm.
And but yeah, other than that, it's I kind of got to a phase. I'm sort of at raid logging now because that's how TBC goes. Eventually, there's so much less emphasis on the continued need to farm because the way I play
Mhm.
the game, I just make so much gold that I don't know what to do with it just through questing and
Send it to
profession
Mel. She
cooldowns.
has no gold.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's been going good. Had a lot of fun
Nice.
with it.
Nice,
Yeah, I
nice.
started
Looking
leveling
forward to
my
phase
druid.
5. I don't want them to rush phase 5, but I'm looking
I
forward to it. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Leveling up is way more gold than I make on my warrior. Just
100%.
playing. I started leveling my druid, and I've had to siphon some of its gold just to keep my enchants and gems going.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is nuts, especially if you're working up an enchanter all like along with it, just all the different quest rewards and enchanting mats seem to be holding price really well. So, I mean, I've
Maybe
even
that's why I'm
seen them
broke because
go
I'm like a
up.
hoarder. I just keep all my enchanting mats because I think I'm going to need them at some point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Starting to
I
see
mean,
the errors in my ways.
yeah, it can be worth doing, but yeah, it's just once you level cap, especially if you level through dungeons, the amount of money you get from, even if you just do Neverstorm and Shadow Moon Valley, it's thousands and
Yeah,
thousands,
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's guaranteed gold.
we
Yeah.
ended up leveling up our second characters doing just pretty much exclusively questing. And then I got to level 70 like at the start of we had finished Shadow Moon and at like the start of Netherstorm I got it, and then Mel got it like towards the middle of Netherstorm, and we were kind of just like, well, we kind of regret that because the amount of money we made on the mains that went through dungeons is just out of this world. And it's a lot more fun than just grind, at least for us, than just grinding mobs over and over again. Because I did do that just yesterday, and it actually was pretty good gold per hour because I was just trying to work up. I had to do something to Carrot. I had to work up maces. So I just did that for a few hours, working that to 350, and actually made like 150 gold an hour just killing the ogres in Nagrand. Like, so it is, you can still make, there's just a lot of ways to make gold, but I wish I wasn't out of quests.
Yeah,
I hate questing
yeah,
on my
so true.
prot warrior.
Oh,
I
I
don't
bet.
That's what
enjoy
my
open
brother
world.
says.
I don't
I
enjoy it
don't
at
blame
all.
you. I've been feeling that on the Paladin sometimes because it's ret for raiding, but outside of raiding, if I ever want to pug anything, I know I'm making life difficult for myself by not being prop. So I
Yeah.
play prop outside of raids.
Yeah, especially
But,
with
yeah, respec costs.
just doesn't seem to be a lot of tanks because tanking sucks if you're not a paladin. Like it's freaking hard. So a lot of people don't want to do it, and there's a lot of people looking for tanks. It's kind of a bummer.
His
Any
What's
gift
interesting
is
in
leveling his
guild,
druid.
well, it's interesting because in guild we don't see that problem, and I've been reading other people also experiencing this, where it seems like if you have a pretty established guild, you actually have more tanks than needed. When I ever look for a group, I'm almost always pugging because there's no one in guild who needs to tank things for them. Occasionally, you'll see someone who's like, "Oh, I needed a tank for this or for that," but if I'm looking for a group, I end up having to pug and having to go outside of guild just because it seems like we have 4 or 5 people who tank and not that many people concurrently running heroics. It seems like
Yeah.
it's been kind of tough in guild, but for out of guild, and if you're not an established guild, finding a tank must be a nightmare.
Yeah, I've been. I mean, when I pug on the paladin, just I don't know if I'm trying to. I'm mostly trying to pug on prop paladin to get badges to buy ret gear because it's faster than playing ret, especially when you can't find in guild groups. Even though ret's, it's. I mean, everything's fine in dungeon and blessings are just OP to be honest. But
Yeah.
I tried tanking my first few heroic dungeons on prot yesterday. Like, oh my god, it's stressful. Like the
Really?
amount of incoming damage is unbelievable.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Things do a lot of damage and
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Like
as a
trash mobs hitting harder than bosses. A lot harder.
as a
Yeah.
warrior,
Oh
you're
yeah.
just running around with your like a chicken with your head cut off, like oh oh oh.
Yeah. At least I can keep aggro. That's one thing.
Yep, definitely.
that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Have
Well, speaking from a healer's perspective, that is definitely the most important thing because it usually comes and whacks me if if you don't.
has anything like surprised you quite a bit? Like kind of jumped out and been like, oh, I really didn't expect this to be this way in TBC.
I guess if anything, how fast the profession cooldown items have come down
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
price.
definitely.
When I checked Primal Might during like the first, I think it was the end of the first week, I was thinking, right, these things can be 500 gold easily, and they were 280. And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
that's not bad, honestly. With where I'm out of gold at the moment, that's pretty affordable. And then they've just kept going down for me now. Primal Might's just above 100.
Same.
Shadow Cloth is
Yep.
70. Spell Cloth's about the same. Moon
Mhm.
Cloth is around 50-ish. They've just come down super fast.
That's almost exactly the same as our server, except today I made my mooncloth, and mooncloth was up to 70, and I sold 3 of them for that. So I was like, oh, cool.
I
Yeah,
feel
even
like my
still.
biggest issue with the cooldowns is getting all of the mats to complete my cooldowns every time they're up. Like Primal Mites, come on. Every 20 hours, like I gotta go buy all these things. I should just buy them, but the prices keep coming down, right? So I don't want to like stock up on them so I have them because I know they'll be cheaper in a day when I have to get them again.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
really
maybe
surprised at the prices. Everything's super cheap. Gems are super cheap. They came down a lot. Like my gems cost less to buy cut than they are just raw.
Same.
It's really crazy. Other than the spell damage, I guess, the rubies,
the
everything else
rubies are
seems incredibly cheap.
But the healing, like Red Ruby, Living Ruby, is still cheaper to buy the cut one because the raw ones are selling for the price of the spell damage one, you know?
Crazy.
Which
I
confuses
was
me
gonna
why
say if
anybody
you're
cuts them.
I guess yeah, levels. But if you are transmute for Primal Might and it's worth like nothing, it might be worth looking at the meta gems. If you're
Mm.
honored with Honor Hold, you can get the Skyfire Diamond one, which you can't buy,
I
but you
have
can buy
that
honored
one.
with Cenarian Circle.
I have the Skyfire Diamond.
Oh,
I think the profit on the Primal Might is more right now than the Skyfire Diamond, but
I thought you sold
yeah.
the Skyfire Diamond
I
one.
did.
No, I thought you sold that
Oh,
recipe for like
no, I have it.
1,500 gold
No, that
early
was for
on.
jewel crafting.
Oh, okay.
This
Yep.
is for alchemy.
Yeah, the transmute you just get from rep.
Yeah, it's it's transmute to get up. I think it's like fire and something else for the Skyfire. It's kind of
Are
expensive.
are
Maybe
either of
the
you
other
are you
one's
guys
easier.
transmute spec? Have you guys been getting any 2 times transmutes at all? Or-
I
Oh,
went
mine
elixir
level 60.
spec.
Oh,
So no.
I went elixir mainly because I make elixirs most and it counts for flasks too. And so I was just being selfish and that's what I wanted to get procced on. and I always forget to do my transmutes. So
Fair. Yeah, it just seems like they don't proc that often. Like I would in my head I would think that these really low prices would come from the fact that everyone's transmute spec and just procking left and right and driving prices down, but that isn't the case. They're just the prices
I
of
think
everything's just
everybody
dropping so
just
much.
everybody just it honestly is a lot of people with a lot of ults
That's
that
I
have
think what it is.
multiple
Mm.
cooldowns every day. You know what I mean? There's just
Yep.
a
I mean, we have
saturated
people in our
market.
That's me.
guild who have 60. We have people in our guild
That's
who had
literally
6
me.
tailors.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's me.
it's WillE's fault.
Yep. Because I'm driving the economy to be more affordable for the poor masses. So you're
Thank
welcome.
you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
During the first couple weeks, I had to like vendor some of my classic gear and stuff to get my gems, and now I can just go get them. They're like 20 gold. I can just get them
I,
from Arizan loot at the end of the night.
One
I just have to ask Bob. Like, Bob, can I have some gold? I need to repair.
one tip for Alliance tailors that have the tailoring odds that are level 60, things are kind of a pain, but everybody says go to Zangermarsh to do your primal mooncloth. But the best place that I have found is Blades Edge Mountain in the very north, Ruin Weld or something like that. You fly right there. The flight path is right there. Whereas Zangermarsh, you have to run all the way over there from the flight path. So, little tip that's helped me quite a bit. If anybody has any tips on how to do Shadowcloth fast, I could use that because that's the one that's a pain for me every week on the 2 other tailors.
Yeah, I can imagine a lot of people are doing those because you can get tailoring spec at level 60. I imagine Zenger Marsh just comes from the fact that it's just easier for level 60 to get there. But
Mhm.
once you have the flight path to Blade's Edge, you're you're good
Well,
to go. You don't doesn't matter.
Yep.
yeah, and I mean you have
Yeah,
to
you need to go
run.
there.
Yeah,
Spellcloth anyway.
Yeah.
I mean,
have
you
to
have
go
to
there.
run to Netherstorm unless you have a warlock's. Well, a warlock can't summon you. They can summon you using the stone, but like that's the only way. So you have to walk past the flight path anyhow. You might as well grab it.
How do you get to Nagrand? Or not Nagrand. How do you get to Nether
There
Storm?
is
There's a
a
bridge.
there's a
Oh,
bridge.
there is. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's not bad to do. I've done it obviously a bunch of times, but you just run there really. I don't know what else to say. Even on the
All right.
60% mount, the only time you'll really die is in Blade's Edge. That's the
Yeah.
most dangerous
Mm.
bit.
Yeah. I got
And
through
for
everything pretty easy.
professionals, if you don't care about their Elder or Scryers, go Scryers. So then you can get a flight path which is much nearer the altar.
I've
Yeah.
thought about doing that. I
Nice.
just don't know if I want to do it in case I want to work those characters up.
Yeah, I mean I say it's much nearer. It's like probably 2 minutes on the 60% mount, so it's not a big deal. And hopefully there's people farming gold on the air elementals, so you just run straight through. That's what usually
Yeah.
happens
Right.
for me.
I found I run through, and even if I take aggro, because I always get that stupid lizard that's right there. I found a way to run off and get him to de-aggro, and then I run back. I used to
Yeah.
just go there, die, then run back, then craft my cloth and hearth, but now I've figured out how to not die at least.
Yeah.
Oh
Shadow
man.
Cloth's definitely an annoying one, but yeah, if you go area 52, if you did a spell cloth right outside the inn, you can get 4 guards on it. Then you run to the flight path.
Yep.
I've done this a lot, and by the
Yep.
time you're at the flight path, then the guards have killed the elemental that you spawned. Unless you're on a rogue where you can vanish and it instantly despawns. And you fly over to Sylvanar, which is Alliance only. There's a Moonwell just down the ramp from the flight path, and then you fly to Shadow Moon. Just run across. And then you hearth back to Area
Oh.
52 and say goodbye character for 3 days.
Yep.
Yeah, that's funny.
Flora
I
is.
do think that elemental that spawns in Netherstorm is like pretty tough. It hits pretty hard.
Which
Oh,
it
yeah.
drops
It's,
motes pretty often though. Someone in
Yeah,
our
it
it's
guild
does.
pretty
said
dangerous.
someone in our guild sold the cooldown, and the person who bought the cooldown demanded that they get the motes from the elemental that dropped
Negative.
That's
also. I thought that was
hilarious.
really funny. Like,
Yeah.
hey, he bought
Uh,
it. He wants them.
No,
Yeah,
that's not how it
that
works.
thing does hit pretty hard because the first time I did it on Lock Dude, like it freaking
I
killed
wasn't
me.
prepared
Like,
for
yeah, I
it.
wasn't prepared for it. I was like, did that just kill me? Like my pet was like dead before I even was like, oh, there's a mob here. And then I was just dead. I was like, what just happened? Oh man.
That, it drops a lot of motes
That's
though, but yeah, that
It
thing is
does.
it's no joke. If you're on a fresh 70, it could surprise you
Yeah.
Yep.
easily.
All right. Well, anything else you want to add in before we move on to what we've been doing?
No, go for it.
Okay. What have you been doing, Ryan?
I've been dealing with my gear. So I think last week I might have talked about the tank panic that's been going on, I feel like, for warriors, where everyone was like, yeah, druids are gonna be better than us in phase 5 for sure. Like it's gonna be tough to be a warrior in phase 5. But with paladins just dominating dungeons and then druids actually being totally fine on most of the current content, and by fine I mean better than warrior on most of the current content. Everyone's been feeling real down on themselves and going into a panic. So, of course, following along, as I have a feral druid who on Groll is constantly close to my threat, much shockingly close to my threat as the off tank. I started gearing more towards threat, so I had all my mitigation gear pretty much done already, except for Curator's pants. The pants that Curator drops, they have eluded me. But this week, I got every single item I needed and more. So I got Romulo's poison or whatever from raid, but then I also got Grips of Deafness. I got the pants from Curator, and I got the bow that has hit on it. It's like the crossbow from Atumen. So all this time I've only been just like re-gearing myself and gemming different ways and just trying to optimize my threat while staying at hit cap and not hit cap, defense cap, and then also trying to improve the hit cap and expertise. So I've just been messing around with my gearing on my warrior to see how I can optimize better. And that's been fun. I learned about these gloves if you're a warrior, or maybe if you're other classes that need expertise too. There is a quest in Netherstorm. I think they're called like the like the flesh, burn the flesh or something. And you get like these flesh gloves that have 18 expertise on them. They're leather. They're basically grips of deafness where you're missing some of the main stats, but you get 3 extra expertise, which as a human warrior actually rounds out to one entire expertise uh, one expertise skill higher. So it's a little expertise rating is a little confusing because you don't get any benefit unless you get a rounded out expertise point, which takes
Really?
about 4 rating. Yeah. So if you have 3 out of 4 rating to get to your next expertise skill point, that 3 is just entirely wasted. There's no benefit to
Interesting.
it at all. But these actually, as a human warrior using the Hungering Cold or Latros, you'll actually have exactly 1 extra skill rating, which was pretty exciting. But as soon as I got those gloves, I enchanted them with 2% threat, and then Karazhan rolls around and I get Grips of Deafness. So I got to enchant those with
Ugh.
with 2% threat.
Yeah.
So I've had to pay the toll to get my gear, but really it's just been like a gear adventure on my warrior for me this last week. And I haven't been doing too much extra stuff because I'm following the trend of what happened in Vanilla Classic. I'm trying not to spend a lot of time doing stuff that I don't need to do because I don't want to burn out at this phase. There's going to be a lot more raiding to do going forward and a lot more to do. And I'm leveling my druid slowly. I think it's almost 66 right now. And I'm trying to level it with Bingo, who's been out and about right now. So I've been just taking my time. I'm not trying to play more than I need to play because I don't want to burn out in this phase where there's not a ton to do. So that's really where I've been at. It's gearing and figuring out how to make my warrior as good as possible.
Nice, nice. Well, for Melody, we've been basically just PvP, and for the most
Yeah.
part, right?
Yeah, lots of PvPing.
Yeah, there's been
Lots of Bob asking me to PvP and me saying no, I'm too tired.
Yep. But I've still been doing it. I've been keeping going strong, and it's actually pretty cool because we're starting to have a lot of success, which is driving the guildies that do come to want to do it again the next day. Like we had a pre-made pretty much every day. We're not getting full pre-mades. We got a full pre-made one night for Warsong Gulch, but that was 10, and we just won pretty much every single game. Like it
hmm
was crazy good. We even went up against other pre-mades, and it's been a blast. And like we've been doing partial pre-mades and still winning a lot, and it's been a lot of fun. We've done some Altric Valley, like
Have you been running into a lot of horde pre-mades when you're a partial pre-mid?
we run into partial ones more often.
hmm
And those are definitely tougher. Those would be like we had an Eye of the Storm game that was like 25 or 30 minutes that ended with us only winning by like 15 points, but it was
Oh
Oh,
wow.
it was
awesome.
so close. It
It
was a
was
Those
battle
are
to
the
the
good
death.
ones, aren't they?
yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it was what you live for. You're like, "Oh, that was awesome." You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, like win or lose, like that was just a fun fight, right?
Yep. But I do want to come back to BGs real quick in a second, but the other thing that I did that was really neat was last night we both went on our alts to Kara. And I
Yeah.
off tanked. I came as PvE arms, which I kind of just wish I would have just come as full prot, but I was able to off tank the bosses that needed to be off tanked, and it was a good time, man. Like I had a really good time, and thank you for that weak aura that showed me like because it did help a lot because I had a lot like I didn't use much resilience, but I did use the two pieces that give me the extra 35, which was kind of a huge bump.
It's insanely huge, yeah.
Yeah, so I did that. That was really fun, and if they invite me back, I think I'm just gonna go full prot and like maybe even like main tank some because that would be really like it was a lot more fun than I was expecting because 5-man dungeons seem to be a little different when taking. Like those seem to be a little bit more crazy than actual Kara taking bosses was.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had to
Kara's a
heal.
lot of fun. Like I went from I don't want to say feeling bad about my warrior, but as soon as we went into that first Kara, I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." And especially when I don't want to say lower geared. It gets kind of rough once you get like a lot of mitigation. But before that, it's like you get hit once from a boss and you're full of rage and
Yep.
you can push all your buttons. You're not rage started. It's really nice to be a warrior in that position for sure. Like I really like the like main tanking aspects of warrior. It's just trash always feels it's like okay, here I am.
Let's try and
Yeah,
taunt
I
them
got to heal
off.
on my druid. I did wonderful.
Nice. Did you use tranquility ever?
No. Am I
I
supposed
don't.
to?
I think that's no. I don't. I don't think that's like in your rotation. I was just wondering.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I did think about it's a lot of mana, by the way. But I did think about using it when we were doing that dragon boss. I'm really bad with names.
Nether,
Nightbane.
Nether,
No, not
Netherstorm,
Nightbane.
Nether Spike.
Nether
Netherstorm.
Spite.
Oh, Nether
Netherspite.
Spite.
Yeah. He's the one with the AoE.
We got it. Uh
Oh my gosh.
but like during the phase where you're like all stacked up at the window, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't. So
Yeah, but doing all this PvP, we've talked about PvP and save faction, BGs, yada, yada, yada. We've talked about it to death over the last few episodes, but I've noticed the other problem, and actually what I think is the bigger problem. PvE, I have to BG for like a good freaking 10 hours to get a piece of gear. Like, that's like, I could go to Kara and get one or two, maybe even three pieces just doing that for a few hours. Like, it used to kind of be the same amount of time when like this content was harder and like people weren't as good, but like the honor does need to be changed. Like it's crazy to like if you want to entice people to PvP, don't make it so that they look at it and go, well, that's going to take a long time. You know what I mean? Like entice it by actually just giving more honor. I mean, I just it is accurate. I looked at old screenshots. It is accurate to what we got in TBC, but I don't think we got enough. I know a bunch of people who would just enjoy, who want to get to max PvP gear and then still PvP after that to see how they rank up, even in BGs. So just give it faster and you'll get more people to play.
Well, I'd mentioned this before too. pre-patch, I was able to get more honor than than I'm able to right now at 70. And that I think is a huge problem too. A lot of us got spoiled in that pre-patch period. I hit my 75k honor then, and I still have plenty of honor left because I just need the pieces for tanking. I didn't get like my full set. But if I wanted my full set, it would feel worse to go do now. I mean, if we were going to go pre-made, then yeah, it's probably still okay. But when we were pre-mating in pre-patch, I was getting so much honor that it just it just doesn't feel good. So I think that is kind of a problem. And for people who are more casual, it might be fun to do some BGs, but if you're doing the grind, it's a real grind. With Kara, especially with content being pretty puggable right now, the current content that's out is puggable. I think maybe that will change in phase 5, or not phase 5, in tier 5 a little bit, where it might not be that possible to go pug SSC as easily, and then maybe it makes more sense to get some of this PvP gear. Also, the grind might add up more because we are able to leverage our kind of like social structure of our guild to be able to very easily clear content and get gear, and that kind of factors into those hours that you're not accounting for when it comes to PvE. But when you can go pug anything pretty simply, then it kind of the balance shift is kind of messed up.
You guys, we had one of our DPS and our Kara last night had to leave like for an emergency mid Kara, and so they were trying to find somebody in the looking for group, and they found this hunter, and they're like, "Oh, he's guildless. Okay, that's fine. He's I don't know about his gear." They're like, "But he's a hunter, right?" Like, okay. Then he gets there and he's not attuned. Like, he can't get in. And
He's
we're
like,
just like,
he's like,
"Oh
a,
my god."
he's like, I can't walk in for some reason. We're like, oh, okay. Oh,
got a few things to do, buddy.
Yeah.
But
that always makes me feel sad when like
right?
that kind of thing happens.
Yeah.
I feel sad.
Well, I felt. Sorry.
I guess he was like begging. He like kept sending messages like, I'll get it. And he's like, no, we're done. We need to move on.
We had something similar happen to us in a Eye of the Storm while we were doing a semi pre-made. A mage was doing a real good job locking mid up, and so he was on our server. So I messaged him, "Hey, you want to join our group?" He was like, "Yeah." He joined. Then I said, "Oh, you need to leave queue. It says that you're in queue." But he had taken the queue in, and then he AFK'd out, and then he couldn't queue with us, and he couldn't queue for 15 minutes. And I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm so sorry." I told him to message me back later, but like, I didn't tell him to AFK. I told him to leave queue. So, but I felt really bad for him. But it's been really cool. I'm sure WillE gets this a lot too when he's out in the world or in BEGs, but everybody who has said they like the pod, like while I've been BGing, thank you so much. That means so much. I've had a lot of love, and it made me feel really good. And a special shout out to Kynran, Kynran from Fair Alina. He ran into me and Bushy Bottoms in an Aldrich Valley, and him and I think it was his friend came and like basically pocket healed us while we backcapped everything, played D, then went and annihilated the entire offense. It was the most bonus honor I've ever gotten in an Aldrich Valley ever. I believe it was 620, but we literally, and they had one tower, so like they had 63 and we had 620, and it was only a 22 minute game. It was the best game of Aldrich Valley ever. Played defense, guys. You just need a small team to do it, but man, it worked out good. So special thank you for that.
I'm starting to get a complex because nobody ever messages me. What is happening? why you guys like Yip and Bob better? What's happening?
Oh, I think maybe you're just not on Mel Arena as much. Like, I don't usually get it out on the server. It's just I think the BGs constantly being with so many different people, you just have more opportunity to run into people.
I'm usually there with you in the BG, so don't act like I'm just not available.
True.
It's fine, guys. I understand.
Bob shouts people out if they pocket heal him. He gives out little rewards.
Yeah.
I'll shout you out if you peel for me.
You were going to say something, WillE?
Oh no, I was just saying, shout out, easy, easy recognition right there. But yeah, in Battlegrounds as well, you've got so many people from different servers and stuff, so
yeah,
happens a lot more often. than
Yep.
on your own one.
And when you BG2, you're normally on Ari Alina, which maybe people don't factor in.
Fair.
Yep. Because nobody ever sends anything to lock dude. So, all right.
You
Well,
guys gotta run with me. You guys just have to have the same name on every character. I can't. You know, you're in Discord, you're Blazing Bob still, but that's not your character name. So when someone joins the guild, they'll have no idea who you are, what's going on.
Did you
You
see
know?
the horde
That
characters?
is true.
Like, there's a horde character named like Yip. There's a horde character named like Not Yip or
Yeah,
something.
I refuse to believe that all of them are coincidence. There's a horde hunter named like Yip with like 2 P's, and then his pet's name is Yip, and I'm like, there's you gotta be kidding me. This is ridiculous.
What?
I think
Oh man. All right. Well, let's just do the Vargflocken raid progression. That part's pretty short and sweet. We're still killing it, but you wanted to talk about
we
the
actually had
possibility.
we had a rough raid week this week. Actually, I mean,
Did we?
Quote unquote rough. We had a lot of early deaths on Grohl this week, and then we had deaths on Magtheridon that we don't normally have. We had like 4 deaths after he came out, which was new. I mean, it wasn't like rough, but it was rougher than normal.
Yeah.
I mean, there are mechanics that you have to do. It's kind of like even when things are cheesed, you still have to actually do all the mechanics properly, or you will die. I died on Grohl even. From my own parry, I looked it up. I was really hoping we had a rogue who asked in the middle of the Grohl fight. He was like, does Grohl have a cleave? And I was like, oh my god, he's gonna be hitting him from the front. Like, why would he ask that? And then I got parry hasted dead, and I was so ready to pull up the logs and be like, oh nope, he parried me and then hit me immediately again. That was on me. But that was But yeah, raid's been going really well. I got a ton of gear, like I said. I think I've got like everything except King's Defender, which at this point I don't even think I want King's Defender. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the 25-man thing because, oddly, we've kind of been in the situation where 25-man was weirdly hard to get started. One of the big drives for us wanting to do 25-man was for the mains who just can't fit into the 25. Right? We had quite a few really good players who either had a main alt, so to speak, like Kim's Warrior, or we had people who are just really good players who we were rotating in and out of 25-man. And over the last couple of weeks, we've had a lot of those people who were like longtime raid members sort of just leave the guild. they've gone elsewhere, or they're talking about going elsewhere, to the point where they would rather be in a secure raid than think about going to the secondary raid, which kind of makes our second 25-man, when it does kind of get up and running, more of an alt 25-man. Less so than a second 25-man than anything else. So that was really just something I want to talk about, where it's kind of hard to get that 25 going, because going from 40 to 25, it's crazy because we didn't have 10 people quit. We might have had 2 or 3 people go casual going into TBC, but after that, it's been I think it's the thing that gives officers the most stress in our guild, gives our guild leaders the most stress.
Like 38 to 40 consistent raiders at the end, right? So then you go to 25, but you don't have 50. So you can't like do that.
And we have people bring their friends in too, and there's new people who are in our 25-man roster. So it is really hard to get these rosters together. And people want to play what they want to play. I think we were talking before the podcast. Like, we have 4 really good rogues in our guild. They parse insanely well, but they're also rogues. So it's hard. You can't necessarily bring 4 of them into every raid. So it has sort of been a struggle, and that's the sort of thing where the second 25-man can help a lot. But when it ends up feeling like an alt 25-man, yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough in phase 2, like you mentioned. Right now, Grohl and Mag and Karazhan, it's easy for Karazhan to have alts come in and have people who aren't on like that main 25 come in. But when it comes to setting up a full second 25 man, I think it's been really a struggle. And I don't want to say, I mean, our guild has been relatively dramaless, I think, for all of vanilla. There might be an occasional like loot drama, like Onslaught Girdle or something like that would pop up. But for the most part, everything was really chill. But having to shove all those people into 25 man, I feel like it has been a lot more stressful on people for sure than it ever was in vanilla.
It's
So
also just
it's sort
like
of been a struggle.
really short too. Like it's not like the 25 mans don't take very long,
Yeah.
and there's not a ton of
True.
loot. So it's
Yep.
like the effort level of getting another 25 man together and making that also work is very high, where the reward is not equal, I don't think.
Yeah, if anything, the best thing that you could do right now, and I think it's way more viable now than it was for us in vanilla, is doing like split 25s where you have mains in both that
Mhm.
need certain gear that overlaps, and then the gear would have to be prio domains over alts in
Right.
that sort of situation as well too. Because frankly, one tier piece dropping from 25 man, that just
Yeah.
doesn't feel like enough at all. Because
It
one,
doesn't.
it's random which token's gonna drop. So you can have a string of weeks where just no one needs a particular token coming out. But then also you have 25 people, and you get one shoulder per those 25 people per week, and that just doesn't seem right. That just it just doesn't make sense. I mean, there's not everyone needs their tier, which is good. But again, like I said, if the wrong ones drop 3 or 4 weeks in a row, you could very easily go into phase 2 where you just don't have your tier set, and that's kind of a bummer.
I still only
for
have
sure.
one piece of tier gear.
I don't need
I
very
think
much
that's
tier
about right.
gear. So that helps out, like priest don't. So that helps out the other people on our tier
Yeah.
gear. What is it? Warriors and
Warrior and druid.
yeah.
Yeah, warlocks suddenly need 4. We're expected to only need 1 or 2, but times change. Now we need the 4 set.
Still a little salty
And it's
about
only
yeah,
it's
still a
only
little
dropped once on
salty.
my Claridon. Give me the chest. I
Yeah.
need the 4 set.
I passed on the helm twice because I had
yeah.
spell strike super early and then found out, oh yeah, it's no longer BIS. So I'm just like,
Tell me more about this. It just turns out that the force set's really strong, and people didn't know that.
no,
well,
it's
no.
not.
Chaotic Skyfire Diamond
Yep.
is in 3% crit more damage. Warlock
Which
crit.
on Warlock
The
it's
Ruin,
actually
100% bonus crit damage.
Yep. So it's actually 6% more rather than
Gotcha.
3% more, and then there's something else that stacks too. So it's
just the
actually a
meta
ton
gem
more.
then. That's like the big
Yep.
reason. Okay.
Yeah, the meta wasn't there then. It'd be spell
Yeah.
spray would be correct, but the 4 set's only like 3 extra seconds on corruption. But math,
Okay.
big math brains
Oh,
have said it's better. So
also in what's
Take
it
their word
called?
for it.
Immolate, you get 3 more seconds too, which is kind of nice.
Oh yeah. The 2 set's just really good though. It's like 150 spell damage for 15 seconds.
Yep.
It's kind of insane actually for a 2 set.
Yep.
So you would have got that even with the without the meta gem, but with the meta gem it just changes
Oh,
things.
I wonder if you know anything about this. So I got the robe from what's his name? Oh gosh, I can't ever remember the dragon's names.
Nightbane.
Nightbane.
So I got that robe that has the 130 spell power crit or proc. It's
oh yeah, I got
yeah.
that one as well actually. Yeah.
So I decided to try it on the 25 man, and it seems like it's more of a 20% proc, whereas it looked like everybody was saying it was a 5%, but I did some digging. I guess they changed it in 2.4 to be 20%. So like I was having that proc along at the same time with my spell strike set. So it actually turned out to be pretty good. And I think a lot of people are kind of sleeping on that piece, because you could have that and then still have the other proc too. Maybe not do the helm and have 3 different spell power procs.
Yeah, we actually had that drop a bunch, and I just took it because I was like, otherwise it's a void crystal. I might as well see how it feels. And yeah, it seemed to proc a decent a bit, and I've still got the tier 3 chest. So
yeah,
the tier 3 chest is really good.
I need to look into it. Someone said it might have a 45-second internal cooldown, but I feel like it doesn't.
So Wowhead has data on this. I was talking to a mage in our guild about this recently, who was saying it was a 5% proc chance, but Wowhead lists proc chance and internal cooldown as 20% proc chance with a 50-second internal cooldown. And if you're saying it lined up with a 20% proc chance, I could imagine that maybe that what their data is saying is actually accurate then. Just on Wowhead's listed on the item. I don't know. Just throwing that in. But yeah, that's a cool piece. I wish I had something that cool.
Yeah.
I've got the offhand too that it's like a little flamethrower. It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I think we've seen that once. I didn't get it though because bad offhands. They're good.
Yeah. But I don't know. I would argue the crit might actually be better. Just more crit as much as you can get. But I've got both. I kind of don't know which one to use, but I use the flamethrower because it looks cooler.
True. I mean, with Warlock gearing, I literally make sure I've got enough hit, and then everything else is kind of, just hit chats.
Yeah, I've got a
big one.
Like, it's crazy because like every time I get a new piece, I have to reform my 3 different sets. My set with an elemental chamois, my set with a regular chamois, because Horde wouldn't have to do this, but our regular chamois still have 1% chance to hit. And then without a chamois at all. And I have to redo all the sets. And like I've got like, I don't know, 5 or 6 slots that I have both a crit and a hit piece. So I can like kind of like change up the gear once I get something new. But it's definitely a math problem every time.
Yep. You got your 15% hit chance, and you're a 12-1, and you just try and work out what you're getting.
That's how I field my warrior. That's what I've been working on, because looking at how much you miss as a warrior is unbelievable between parry, dodge, and hit. And there's almost no good hit gear for warrior. I finally have everything so that I have good gear, but I've gotten pretty lucky with drops probably overall. And it's just like I'll miss 25% of the time with my shield slam on some fights. And that is such an insane amount of threat loss for me that fixing that problem can do. And I was feeling good on Tuesday when we did Karazhan, and I had a lot more hit. I had a lot more expertise. I felt awesome. Then Thursday rolled around, and we moved one of our Karazhans to Thursday. And Corpse, who has actually been on the podcast before, is now a paladin in our guild. And he solo tanks that, except for the bosses that need an off tank, of course. And I wanted to watch a little bit of it. And I cried myself to sleep that night.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable how simple he made Karazhan look. Oh, let's just pull this whole room. And then they did.
Yeah.
Let's just pull all of Morose, and you don't need to CC any of it. I'll just sit on all of it.
It's literally
no big deal.
a guaranteed 99 parse on Morose. Like it's
unbelievable.
Yeah,
I'm so upset.
He only needs a off tank one time in the entire dungeon, and that's for
Nether Spite.
Yes. And so it's just
So we go, like, we've run with you and we've run with Corpse, so we know that difference. Yep, you just saw the lights.
Seen it. Well, the thing is, our times to clear aren't that different. I imagine maybe because he needs to get mana more or something. So our time to clear usually isn't too different. But the polls, I was just I was so unhappy thinking about how much work I have to do, and just watching a paladin be like, no, it's cool, let's go. And I think most people can solo tank right now, other than what needs off tanks, but just like the functionality of how well the trash will go. Yeah, how well the trash will go is just on another level. Watching a paladin. Yeah,
those rooms going up to Morose and stuff with like a million different the dancing mobs in those 2 areas. As a warlock, you notice the difference. You have a paladin, he presses the button that makes the floor go yellow, and then you press Seed of Corruption.
Yep.
With a warrior, like, okay, waiting for Blizzard or Frost Trap, or I'm going to die instantly.
Hey, I'll demo shout, so maybe you'll live a second longer after your seed goes off. That's what I can offer. Yeah, just a second. That's
it always
life.
cracks me up when there's a warlock in there, and all of a sudden you just see like everybody's fine, warlock's dead.
Let the
Okay.
warlocks hit the floor. Let the warlocks hit the
We're
floor.
at the point
Yeah.
where we do enough DPS where mobs usually die before the warlock dies, and it gives like this illusion like Karazhan's going better than normal, or like somehow I've learned how to tank all those mobs, or something's different. But it's like, no, they're just dead by the seeds now, as opposed to just killing the warlock. That's the only difference here.
Yeah, we're getting smarter. You know, you put that seed on one that's not taking damage, like a few that aren't taking damage, and then as soon as one pops, they all pop, and it's like pop, 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 pop. Everything's
Oh, yeah.
dead.
It's such a good spell. I mean, it's completely broken, but yeah, it's a really good spell.
It feels so good if you're a warlock, though.
Yep.
Oh,
Great spell.
man.
Improved Blizzard is more OP.
Which we
Unironically.
never bring. We never bring improved Blizzard. We bring arcane mages to Karazhan.
We've got a
Hey.
couple. Like
It could happen, actually.
Bushy's group has improved Blizzard.
Yeah,
Oh,
spell.
does he not go
Spell
Spell
arcane?
check.
Spell check.
Yeah.
has
Oh,
improved
okay.
Blizzard.
Yeah,
I
he
thought he went
keeps
Especially
it.
in
arcane.
dungeons. Like in dungeons, improved Blizzard is
Oh,
still
it's
Oh, yeah.
incredible.
Yep.
OP.
like in
And
like, Seeds does a
shamans.
lot of damage, but if nobody can ever reach anything,
Yeah.
then,
Right.
that's a little bit better.
Yeah.
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 It was easy mode. Our
Pretty
we
good.
have improved Blizzard in our heroic group, and it's
2
wonderful.
locks. It's glorious.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Druid tank. You know.
Yeah, everybody complains about Shattered Halls. We're like, we eat that for breakfast, bro.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, well,
Yeah.
is that everybody? Everybody got everything out? Do we want to cover anything else? Let's
Nope,
move
we're good.
into the news. So in the news this week, it's not much, but Blizzard did put out something on the same faction, Battlegrounds. I guess I'll just read it out. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who played Battlegrounds last week and sent us thoughtful and informed feedback on same faction play. They must not have listened to ours. I don't know if it'd be thoughtful. While we don't plan to re-enable it again over the next few days, we're analyzing data we collected and we're planning to test more soon. Here are some of our initial findings that will inform our next test. Before this test, most players who joined the queue were unable to get a match, sometimes after waiting for over an hour and or dropping out of the queue altogether. This was particularly unfortunate at some times of the day in some regions. During the test, BGQ times became short and reliable for both factions. Prior to the first test, we wondered if the queue was having an effect on PvP in the outdoor world. And we now have data showing that when same faction BGs were available, PvP deaths in the outdoor world were very close to 50-50 between the factions.
Of course they were. Like.
Oh, let me
Yeah.
finish.
But-
Let me finish.
Yeah,
let me
let him
finish.
finish, and we can go in on this.
Similarly, it's hard to read it because it's so funny. Similarly, win rates for the two factions when facing the other faction in Battlegrounds were close to 50-50. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that was interesting.
Yeah, the only really trade is only a problem in Alteric Valley, but I'm getting off on some. But we'll let you know as soon as we've completed our analysis, have decided on any further tweaks to the system, and are ready to test it again. Again, thank you very much for your feedback as we explore potential solutions.
Can I just say that they're programming to the test? Like the results that they're coming up with are a direct result of what they've put into place, but they're not correct results. They are not taking into account the future implications of this. They're not taking into account the fact that this was a short-term thing. So yes, everybody was in BGs
Yep.
because they knew it was expiring and they weren't out in the open world as much. So yes, deaths went down out in the open world. But what they're not seeing is that when people get their honor, that will go down and there's no negative to being on horde, so there will be more horde.
And they'll have
meaning-
more resilience and be harder to kill on your alts as you're leveling up.
Which
Right.
I don't feel is a I mean, not to put you down, but I don't feel like there's a
I
valid
was
complaint.
joking. I was joking.
Just to
Yeah.
throw out there, the horde deserve resilience gear, but it is
Nah.
ridiculous that they're not even acknowledging the problems that like it blows my mind that in the first test that they didn't at least acknowledge that they know the problem is faction imbalance. Like, it'd be nice for them to just say, hey, like, we know this doesn't fix all of
Right.
the problems, but we want to try this. And I think that that alone would have caused a lot less complaint, right? Having them acknowledge it. And now for them not to acknowledge that, of course, if you're only going to open this for 5 days, it's the only time Horde can grind their honor now over this 5 days. Of course, this is going to cause more people to be in BGs for Horde. That is not a long-term solution, because we've talked before about how honor is not a continual grind. At first, you need a lot of honor, but after this, it might be a piece or two, a piece of jewelry later. Maybe some people will get some catch-up gear on an alt, but this isn't going to solve imbalanced servers. It could never solve imbalanced servers. It just doesn't make any sense. But it's cool that they were measuring it. But the problem is, without acknowledging the problems with this test and the way they're collecting data, it just feels even worse again. Like,
They're
hey,
presenting the data that
50.
supports what they wanted to support, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the only data we're seeing. We're not seeing the
Yeah.
other data. We're not seeing anything that would contradict what is happening here. We're just seeing the data that they want to show us. And I've done research. I know you can manipulate data to show just what you wanted to see. Like, just a real thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's, I don't know. It's obviously it's the faction balances at the core of it. I mean, to be honest, the whole Battlegrounds were bad in Classic, right? And it is an area of the game which has sort of been cut away from them. And it's only got worse. And I think if Battlegrounds are heading towards an hour, I don't blame Blizzard for trying to intervene,
yeah,
because that is a bit on the long side. Like, I understand there being a queue-based system in a game where the game by its very nature wants us to divide us down the middle. I think that's fine, and if you're on the more populous faction, you should expect some kind of waiting period. But an hour, even for like any battleground whatsoever, is a bit much. But yeah, then again, like this, it's not even necessarily like Horde Alliance throwing our toys at each other because they got this, we got that. It's literally what will happen long term with the faction balance, because it's happened before.
Yeah, I know.
And it's happening again, and it shouldn't come as a surprise when it does. There won't be really. I don't think it'll be overly noticeable in terms of actual content as a whole for a very long time, until like mid Wrath of the Lich King. But because obviously you've got server faction balance, and then you've got the faction balance as a whole, and I think they're kind of two separate things. Even if it was a 50-50 faction
Yeah.
split, you'd still have people gravitating and wanting to play on the highest population servers, or servers where they dominate, because that's how MMOs are good. When you have more people to play with, you have a better economy,
Right.
more groups going, more applicants for raiding spots, more arena teams, more everything. But yeah, it does kind of ignore the fact that this will be an issue long term. It will fix in the short term. Like this
For sure.
change will definitely go in. I've no doubt,
Mhm.
because the majority of the player base benefit from it,
Yeah,
and
and
they're not going to say no, please, I want my 1 hour queues back.
Yeah,
yeah,
1 hour
Nobody's going to
queues
say that.
is crazy for sure. But I think the one of the biggest problems, especially with them not acknowledging it, is for me simply we know that the factions are imbalanced. They became more imbalanced in TBC, and they'll continue to be more imbalanced as we've seen in retail. So implementing any change to the game, right? This is not something that was in actual TBC. Any change to the game that is a straight buff to the faction that is already more populated, just some acknowledgement would be nice. Like, hey, I know, we know that people have concerns about faction imbalance, and we hope to address this with, with potential tests in the future as well too.
Right.
Every alliance just has to sit down and shut up at that point. That's all they have to add to some of these no's, is acknowledge the fact that this can bring long-term problems. However, more than half of the player base having to wait over an hour for a BG is a much more pressing issue than a continual faction imbalance
Well,
shift for them, which
yeah.
I
The
can
problem is
understand.
they could
And
have addressed the faction imbalance problem much earlier, but they ignored it. They knew it was an
Yeah.
issue, and they knew where it goes from there, right? Like, they have retail, they know what this means. And the fact that they didn't address it earlier on is just, I think, poor planning, right? And now they're trying to make up for that by addressing the battleground issue, but that's
but
not like,
it
you could have
definitely.
addressed this in Classic.
So real quick, I do want to say, for all the Horde out there that wrote to me saying that I hate Horde and hate you and don't want you to have your BGs, you're missing what I'm saying. I am not happy with this change, but I am extremely happy for you that you get to play BGs. I wrote all of my Horde buddies and was like, how much honor did you get? I was genuinely excited for them. So do not think it's that I want you to suffer because you chose Horde. It's not it. Just wanted to clear that up. But it goes deeper though. Like I've really thought about this a lot, and across like PvE and PvP servers, like PvP servers, Horde vastly outnumber, but across the entire board, according to Ironforge.pro, we have 150,000 people playing Alliance. We have 179, well, basically 180,000 people playing Horde. If they're having our queues, Alliance are not queuing. So the biggest thing is to incentivize them somehow, and I just don't know how to do that. But I do know what I talked about at the start of the show. If you give more honor, it's going to look like a more enticing thing to do and a more fun thing to do because you're going to be getting gear faster. You're going to be feeling like you're accomplishing something faster.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Ironforge.pro for the end of Classic demographics, there was a higher percentage of the population that played Alliance.
Yep.
And they had no queues, and Horde did. Alliance players don't PvP as much.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I think that brings up another problem though with some of the population metrics as well too. And again, this is a lot of feel craft, but most people I think have the idea that more people on Alliance PvE. So PvE, if you're a big PvEer, a lot of people play Alliance. Alliance could be overrepresented in these data because a lot of these are pulled from raid logs.
Yeah, it's
They're
the
not
only
pulled
way.
from
Yeah,
people
from
logged in.
yeah,
It's pulled
Warcraft
from raid
logs.
logs.
Yep.
So even if Alliance are underrepresented here, it could be that there's even more Horde out in the world who are not PvEing, who exclusively are PvP oriented. So that's
Yeah,
another
which is
factor.
what Mel and I did in our original our original TBC. We PvP'd exclusively. We went into raids only a handful of times. So there's plenty of people that if PvP was their main focus, they might not even worry about raids.
For sure.
Yeah, true.
Probably
I mean,
less
it's
so
just
now than back then, right? Because raids are much easier now than they were back then.
Yeah, but I mean, for instance, I went through to know what I wanted to, because I wanted to soft res something on the warrior for Karazhan that would, be good for me in PvP in the interim while I'm getting all of my gear. So I looked through. Literally, the tier 4 helmet was about the only thing I could find that was worthwhile. The tier gloves would be good if I didn't already have the gloves that reduce whatever. But I mean, there's very little gear that's actually good for PvP too. Like most, if for me specifically, if I'm a warrior, like in PvE, I'm gonna want mostly leather, some mail gear, and like it's not really gonna translate into PvP. So if you're a real hardcore PvPer, there's a lot of classes where it just doesn't help you to go do raid.
You know what might have been interesting if they, the honor gear, not honor, the rep gear, the blue PvP gear
Mhm.
that was put in originally in like 2.3 or something. They
Oh
just chucked that in
yeah,
from launch.
Yeah. Yeah, they
'Cause
really
that
could
is
have done
like,
that.
yeah, they could
Yeah.
have. I'd forgotten about that.
because you only honored, I think, with all the big factions, which is super easy. You get that from questing, no problem. And then you've got some decent starter gear, Some resilience is better than no resilience.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know when they'll bring that out. Maybe they'll just put it out in phase 2 and everyone will be mad because they've grinded like 300 hours for their set. And then they're like, oh, you can get it from Honored. Yeah, just pay 70 gold, mate. Easy.
I
Oh,
feel like it's one
man.
of those things that someone has to remind them exists. That's how I feel like a lot of these things have been happening in TBC, where players just like, oh, yeah, that's
Well,
Oh, yeah.
planned at
okay,
some
so
point. We
yes,
remember that.
if it goes like original
Mhm.
TBC, I don't know if it was season 2, but I know for sure in season 3 you were able to buy the original blue set for gold. I don't know that
Well, no, yeah.
ever
So
happened later,
Uh,
in
but
season two, season 1 gladiator gear is for honor, and then the blue PvP gear is for gold. And it just doesn't it just transfer like that.
I can't
That's what I
remember if
was
it keeps
under the impression.
Yeah, I can't remember if it keeps transferring down because I had everything at that point. Like,
Yeah.
so I don't know. Huh.
At
I
some point, at
think,
least, Gladiator Season 1 gear is for honor, and the blue stuff's for
yeah,
gold.
I
Yeah.
think in season 4 you could only buy season 2 for honor.
Okay. Yeah, and that's probably fair.
Um,
I think the
and
prices do
season
go
3
down
gear,
though.
like they had the rating requirements removed. It still would cost arena points though. So you played arena, you could buy season 3 gear, but you just play it casually. You could just AFK 10 games and you'll get it eventually.
Yeah.
But for the actual season 4 gear, that still had the requirements on, which were
Yeah.
different from our current iteration as well. They were
Yeah.
higher.
Yeah. So that is definitely interesting.
Well,
My last point on this this post they put out, which is like, this might be a non-point here, but they said that the PvP deaths in the outdoor world were close to 50-50, which is interesting. That's cool that they have that data. But that's not necessarily acknowledging, like I said, faction imbalance. So if there's 4 alliance and 4 horde, and the 4 alliance kill, or sorry, if there's 4 alliance and 6 horde, which is what the faction imbalance is on our server, right? So 60-40. If 4 alliance kill 4 horde and then 4 alliance die, the horde have 2 people left over and they wiped the alliance. And that's like the result of that combat. So just looking at deaths 50-50 does not necessarily give a full view of what's
Yeah.
going on in the world. I think that's
Yeah.
kind of
That
a
is,
and it's not
that
just
is
a
only
world.
relevant if it's percentage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if they're taking all the servers together, that's not the world. That's the worlds, plural. You need to look at data from each world, each
Yeah.
server.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So it's interesting data. I just hope that that's not like we fixed the world. There's
Yeah,
equal
I mean,
deaths on both sides.
Yep,
yeah, I mean, on top
washing
of
our
all,
hands of it. Well,
sorry, yeah, on top of like all this and all the faction balance things, the amount of, if you look at the subreddit over the past few weeks, the amount of servers which have just become essentially PvE but PvP servers is just, it feels like we're getting a new one every week. What was it? Gandling recently is now like 100% horde. Everybody's left. I think Herod is backing out on the
oh
alliance.
wow, Herod died.
Benediction's now the most popular server in the world. Because I think there was an absolute massive influx of a bunch of different alliance guilds.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Oh, it
just
is. It
thread.
jumped
leaving.
over. Yeah, it jumped over White Man just since last week when I
Yeah.
looked at it. Wow.
Actually,
Yeah,
I saw
'cause-
something about that. It might have been in a Discord server where people were concerned about that. There was like a giant spreadsheet of so many alliance guilds who were going to transfer at the same time and just like have a massive influx onto the
Yeah.
server.
I mean, if honestly, Blizzard would have to be very heavy-handed with faction balance. Like, I was thinking, when you log in, you look at your world list. You've got servers that are full, that are high, that are medium. And it's just like the red thing. What if you had a red one and a blue one next to it, and it might say full for Horde and medium for Alliance? So you can't make new characters on the Horde, but you could for the Alliance.
I mean, I
They'd
think
have
that's
to
something they should
literally
have done at the
stop people
beginning.
from. Yeah, they'd have to actually stop people from making new characters. You can make a character on a full server. It just says you might have a queue. You won't. They'll be layering, but you might have a queue.
Yeah, I mean, this was like a much bigger issue, I feel like, or more talked about issue, back in when we had really long just login queues, and that was like the big issue that everyone had, was that if you're on a server where there's a ton of horde and not a lot of alliance, people wanted faction-based queues, where if you have too many horde, then the horde have a queue, but there's no queue to get into the game for alliance. A lot of people had ideas like this just because if the real reason there's too many players, it's just like the horde. It's weird. No alliance wants to wait, 2 hours just so they can get ganked the whole time. So in phase 2, this is a big issue. But yeah, I mean, server caps and things like that. They did it. They did it on white main when queues were long. You couldn't make new characters on white main. I think at one point, if you didn't already have a character on white main. So there was things like that they implemented for long queue times, but not necessarily for faction imbalance. And I think that they should be looking at some of these solutions.
Yeah, they really would have had to. I mean, the faction queues, I don't know if that's could have ever worked unless it was really an idea from the outset. Because if
Yeah.
you
That's the
have a
thing. It's
server
like
like
now
Skyrim,
it's almost too
It's
late,
impossible.
right? Like,
You literally can't faction queue it because no one in the
but
horde would ever log in.
yeah, but I mean, you could if you also paired it with
Free
here, you're
trans
gonna
free
have
transfers to someplace else where the balance is better or
yeah, like
something.
free guild transfers, right? Where it's like if you want to take your whole guild here, where they're alliance heavy, then you won't have a queue.
A lot
But
of
I
a
Yeah, I
think
lot of the
mean,
all in
simple
all,
solutions
this
won't
is
work
gonna
anymore.
yeah, and I think all in all, this would just get people to quit the game, which is not in the financial best interest of Blizzard. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I will say,
tough
man,
one.
when all the casual horde quit around like mid AQ, Whitemane was a happy, prosperous place. Oh, but okay, so yeah. All right, well, I'm not really mad about this anymore. It's hard for me to stay mad. So I'm
Well,
just
once
kind
you
of
know
go
it's
with the flow.
coming, once it's inevitable and we're not gonna quit the game over it.
Yep.
It's kind of like, I mean, I don't like it, but what else can we say? It's gonna come into the game.
You could say it is what it is,
yeah.
I guess. Ugh.
And again, I mean, if they're not gonna do anything else, they have to implement this because horde queues being insanely long is ridiculous. Like
Yeah, it's not
they
fair for
obviously have
sure.
to fix it. Yeah.
Hmm.
So this next piece, I don't know, does any of you want to talk about it? Because I'm kind of over it, but the Blizzard leak, like everybody's made a video about it. I'm just like, eh. But if you guys have something to say about it, I th- I th- I think it's fake, but I think there was truth in some of the points, but I think it's pretty fake.
Yeah, I mean, the leak
4chan's
isn't.
latest and greatest.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like
Fill me in. What is it?
this is barely a leak, right? Like it's just they're just like what
What
are
is?
people most
It's fine.
Tell
afraid
me.
of? Is people
Summarize
don't
it.
like Shadowlands
It's
and they
just
like
like
Final Fantasy
opinions
more.
saying
Yeah, it's
Blizzard
like
bad, basically.
these yeah, and these are opinions that like I mean they probably exist in Blizzard. They probably exist I mean they exist from our perspective. Like it's just okay, like I mean, sure. I can understand that might be having some problems. Blizzard definitely has rode the coattails of just being like Blizzard, but that's been going on for a long time with almost like every AAA company. I feel like everyone is having these one culture changes in the company, and two, you have buyers who are less incentivized just to buy your game because you are this company. People aren't just buying based on the company name and developers. They want to buy good games that are going to be finished and complete. You got like EA putting out buggy games and stuff. Like back in the day, no one had these opinions about EA, and now everyone thinks that they're the worst company in the
Well,
world. So
and
I mean, I think it's just normal, like how consumerism has kind of changed in our perspective, I guess.
well, like Blizzard was one of the ones that held out for the longest of times as being one of those companies that you thought of as not that EA. Even when they got bought by
Yeah.
by Activision for a while, you felt like not like Activision, but since Mike Morhaime has left, everything has been getting worse and worse, and they lost people before that, they lost people after that. But like Willie, I think in one of your last one of your last videos, you talked about like, what did you call it, like points or internet points or something. If you hate on Blizzard, it's like you get instant cred because of it or something like that. Maybe you could
Yeah, it's
articulate it better.
yeah, I mean, I touched on this briefly during a previous video. So I do sort of see some of what they're getting at least. I mean, it is overwhelmingly negative, but that is the vibe you get. Like if you go on any Blizzard latest YouTube video, Twitter post, it literally doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what kind of media they're putting out. People just be saying Blizzard bad, and it's just it gets you up votes on the internet. People like that. So people just continually say things like that. You just see it all over the place, really. The one I
Yeah.
referenced in the video the other day was it was a post on Reddit someone had received after having a item restored. It was an automated post. It was basically blank. It said no reply was added to it, and the person in question put it up on Reddit, and it ended up with like nearly 14,000 upvotes. And they should be doing better, right? It's not a multi-dollar company at the end of the day. It should have said why they had received that message in result of their item being restored. But I don't know. I just feel like so many people really thirsty to jump on anything which could say Blizzard bad at any given opportunity. And I do think the criticism's warranted, but at the same time, it's just like sometimes it feels as somebody does WoW like as a job for YouTube and stuff. It can be overwhelmingly negative at times.
Yeah,
Right.
well, there's a lot of
It's
content
redundant at
creators
times
that
too, right?
yeah, but there's a lot of content
Mm.
creators that jump on that and just use that as fuel for their videos. I'm not saying it's all of them, but like there is a lot of them that just like to bitch, and I just guess like, why are you doing this if you don't love the game? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it
Yeah, yeah.
originated out of love of the game. I think that's where a lot of these sentiments came from. But now, like, yeah, at this point, I mean, this leak, and I don't know if we're linking this somewhere, but it's like a 4chan leak, and it almost reads like a copy pasta. Like, it is not. It's like it just reads like someone
I
just took all the
wondered.
sentiments of people and then
Right.
put it together into this long format, pretending to be an employee. And yeah, I mean, it just this stuff exists, but I think it's fine. I mean, people expect everything that Blizzard puts out to be perfect. I don't think that they put out Shadowlands and it's like they purposely made some horrible game and they only care about cash shops and they're horrible. And it's just like I doubt that the people working on this game feel this way. Like that's why
Right.
you have a lot of people. I mean, it's mentioned in here where there are people Blizzard employees who have been like a little bit belligerent on Twitter about this stuff, but I think that's because they care. They're not, they make these games. The people who are working for these companies aren't the executives making any decisions or anything like that. They're just working on a game and they're trying to make something that people will like.
Well, and I think they've got limitations from the executives, right? And that's probably what's frustrating to them. And there has to be this balance of making it financially successful for the company, but also making a game that you believe in and are passionate for. And you have to come to some common ground as to where, like, yeah, I know you want to spend 3.5 years building this wonderful, awesome thing, but I need you to build something in a year and a half, right? Like, so that we can continue this momentum. And there's this like back and forth that needs to happen. But if it's only the executives making the decisions and not allowing the input from the creators, then that's where it goes wrong, right? There has to be collaboration and balance between the two. It can't be all of one.
Yeah, and honestly, I like that Final Fantasy 14 is doing well. I think that there should be healthy competition in the gaming sphere.
Yeah.
WoW has been on
Definitely.
top forever. I think
Definitely.
Final Fantasy 14 is a cool
Mm.
game. I've played it a bit. It's a good game.
And
Yeah, I mean,
competition drives innovation. And, like I do love Blizzard, but I will say they've gotten a little lazy, like from what I've heard about retail. And I mean, like they've just always been on the top and never had to really do anything. But in the past, okay, I don't know if you guys remember, but a ton of MMOs came out after World of Warcraft. Some of them had good ideas. You know
they
what?
were all the WoW killers.
Yeah, you know what
Mm-hmm.
World of Warcraft
Yeah.
used to do? Steal those ideas and make them better. That's what they used to do with every one of those. It's some good thing came in and they're like, "Oh, we'll take that." And now it seems like they just think their shit doesn't stink, and I guess sometimes it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of criticism following the 9.1 patch as well. It just feels kind of formulaic since Legion with how the
Yeah.
patches go. Implement you system where your character has to gradually build up their power through frequent daily or repetitive activities. Point 1 patch, something new is added on top of that. Timeless Isle type zone. Point 2 patch. Did I say point 2? I meant point 1 before. But point 2, they'll fix the issues which they've created. They'll speed things up. They'll put things on vendors. They'll make them all accessible. It's just it
And
seems to be
it's
like going around on the carousel.
and it's funny because one of the complaints that you will hear from people playing Classic is, "Oh, well, now I'm done. Now I just raid log." I think that's wonderful. I thought it was wonderful in vanilla when I could go do other things or play other games and didn't feel obligated to play. The only times I ever felt obligated to play in vanilla is the 2 nights a week, 3 hours for raid. That was always fun. But the times I felt like uncomfortably obligated was when I would respec to PvP spec for a weekend. I felt like I had to be on, and it just made it unfun. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with having a game that's raid loggable, because then you go hard at the start, but you can still keep playing it and do other things. So I don't see a problem with that, but it seems like retail does.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
retail I think just functions differently. A lot of like the big thing that they focus on is engagement metrics. So they want like the their design is based on how often they can get people to do things in the game is basically what it comes down to. And that's like what their goal is, to get people to do a lot of things and do them a lot and log in daily. And I'm sure those sort of things matter a lot when it comes to like cash shop stuff, where if you're not logging in every day, you probably don't spend a lot of money on cash shop, right? Which we've seen is still making them a ton of money, even more money as subscriptions drop. Like their money is still going up because of the people who are super invested. So it's just the sort of thing where, I mean, retail is a modernized game. A lot of games function in this way. I mean, I don't know, like what Call of Duty. People have been joking about Call of Duty putting out the same game every year for the last 10 years, you know? So, I mean, when you have a large company like this, these sort of things happen. But I just think, personally, I just think that I don't know how to put it, but like the weird content creator hate on Blizzard is just above and beyond something else. It's like it's like their family member has betrayed them or something, as if Blizzard like owes us something. They owe us an expansion that is better than any other game that's ever been created, and if we don't get it, then like they've really let my trust down, as if that's like something that the company, I mean, obviously they want their people to feel that way, but we have Classic. I appreciate that. I get upset about things that happen in Classic because I love it, and there's so many hours that we've sunk into this game. But like, what other game are people sinking this much time into?
Well,
Like, Blizzard's still doing good, even if there's bad, they're still doing good in other areas. So I mean, it's good for them to have pushback and criticism. But when it comes to just like needless like click farming hate,
Right.
I think it's just kind of
Well,
ridiculous.
okay, so I get the hate though. Like I don't actually understand it, but when I put myself in someone's shoes who have played the same game religiously for almost 2 decades, I can understand why they get so upset about things, because I played through Wrath, and then a little bit of Cataclysm, and then they didn't do things I liked. I quit, came back in Mop. There were more things I didn't like. I quit again. And then I just kept it as a fond memory of what I did in the past. But people that stayed with it, like, it's got to be a huge thing for them. They've probably been playing it for half of their life. You know what I mean? It's got to be
Yeah,
a
you're right.
nuts feeling.
You've changed my mind with that argument. They should go all the way through Classic. They should go all the way to Shadowlands through Classic, and then let's give those people a home now too. Come to Classic, come play TBC, and then we can go through your favorite expansions again. And then you don't have to worry about the new games they put out.
Oh man,
Easy
all right.
does it.
Yep.
Bring on
Life's
Cataclysm.
Yep.
Tier 11 was good.
All right, well, let's move on to discussion. So this one's an interesting one for me, and I'm glad we have WillE on, because he started streaming basically in TBC, and it's been going well for him. So I'm interested on his input. But the specific thing we're going to talk about is, should big streamers get special treatment by devs in MMOs? What brings this up is, as Asmongold recently switched over and started streaming Final Fantasy. Well, just like in World of Warcraft, he had a ton of trolls coming in and basically harassing him the entire time. But the devs actually banned these people, whereas World of Warcraft has never done that for him. And so he was super excited about it, but there's a lot of people that are not excited about it. Where do you guys fall on this?
I feel like Asmongold, almost to an extent, asks for some of that. Now, not the
Oh, of course he does.
intensity of maybe some of the people, right? But are you going to ban people that like call people out on Twitter? Are you going to ban people that like where do you draw the line? Like at what point and what is bannable and versus what is non-bannable? You know what I mean? Like can't you just ban him from his Twitch chat? Like I don't know.
Well,
I
okay,
don't
keep in mind
understand.
he's getting harassment in game
In
though.
game, yeah.
They're
Okay.
watching him to find out where he is in order to harass him in game. So I feel like
Yeah.
stream sniping is, I feel like, not necessarily a good term for this because I don't necessarily think you have to like stream snipe to find people in game like this. Whereas stream sniping makes more sense for like for something where you need to actively watch their stream, like an FPS game. Whereas this reminds me way more of like Classic. When Classic first launched and streamers were getting constantly targeted to just on PvP servers and just murdered over and over again so that the game was unplayable. And then Blizzard
Yeah.
didn't take any action against those sort of behaviors, I think is more in line with what's going on here. I can definitely feel both sides where on one hand, um, you streamers don't if you're harassing a streamer, you probably should be banned. If you're harassing anybody
Yeah.
repetitively, you should have some sort of repercussion. Um, at the same time, I'm sure that not every so Asmongold brings a lot of money to Final Fantasy 14. Like that's just a fact. So
Oh yeah.
them like babying Asmongold
Mhm.
in this scenario may not be indicative of how they actually handle this. And is more to do with just sort of getting a lot of clout for their game, which they did in fact do from Asmongold playing their game. It's the same thing with Ashes of Creation just had their beta or whatever, and Asmongold was playing it, and uh, the dev of the game made a guild called like Balding or something, and invited Asmongold to it or something like that. And it's like,
That was
haha,
good.
like that's funny, but it's
Yep.
also financially correct. It's like
100%.
they got a
Yeah.
lot of clout from doing these sort of things and having these good streamer interactions. So
And they're trying to keep Asmongold on the game, right? And to
yeah.
do that, you can't let him have this awful experience because he's playing your game and streaming it, right?
Mm. At the moment, I don't think that'll be true when Ashes is live. And the thing about streams and games is, if I was in a position developer, I would protect streamers as much as I possibly could within how the game works. That is to say, if a big streamer is on a classic WoW PvP server, they're screwed.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't see how you help them. They've made that. Don't
True.
like just roll PvE. Like I don't know. They made that decision. They were baiting targets on their back. At the same time, like I mean, there was what was that guy called who made a guild specifically just to gank Asman? There was
Oh, I
somebody who
forget.
did
Yeah, I
this.
forget. There was a big old
On the
controversy
same
early
note,
on.
though, look at
But
how
he
much
did get
benefit they
banned though.
give.
He was the one
But
that got banned by
Yeah, he
Blizzard.
well, he didn't get banned. He got banned on Twitch.
Twitch, Dad,
mm,
Twitch banned him.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then
Okay.
he stopped doing it, and that is kind of indicative of the kind of person that did this. Because once he got banned on Twitch, he stopped doing it. Because the sole reason he was doing it was to farm clout from hate watchers, which is
Yeah.
sad.
right?
At the end of the day,
Yep.
so I'm glad he got
Yeah.
banned.
But I think you
And
have to
that's
look at this
generally
too
how you
is
look at it.
they get a lot of benefits too, right? Like there's a lot of people coming to help them as well as a lot of people coming to annihilate them, right?
I mean,
And
it was yeah, he didn't have much of a chance. There was too many horde, but that happened to everyone on a
that's right.
minority server in Phase 2, didn't it?
Right?
Yeah.
Literally everyone. It wasn't just a streamer who was walking an hour to get into Blackrock Mountain. That was the game. And
That
people were
was.
cheering for that, and that's how it was. But I'm not surprised they've taken different stance on Final Fantasy 14. I mean, they have an initiative at the moment where you can give 4 subs to a streamer who's streaming the game and is eligible for the program, and you get a mount in the game. So they're
Oh,
actively enabling a system which allows streamers to benefit financially whilst being able to get something in the game. This is like the most mega brain idea I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
To actually I mean, you want streamers to be in your good books because they're like the easiest, biggest advertisement you can get.
Yeah.
Like
I think.
they are the new TV spot. Like, and as
Well, and 90% of the time,
McGold,
you're not the one paying them.
but
You know?
as Asmon is like the Super Bowl commercial of MMO streamers. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
huge. For me personally, I don't agree with this at all. I think it's bullshit. Just like I thought the same faction BGs was bullshit. But on the same hand, I understand it completely. And if I was in their shoes, I would do the same thing. So just because I think it's wrong, I think it sucks for the average player. I don't think there's any other way to react responsibly than do it. And that's where it's just like it's a horrible feeling to know, that like something I disagree with, I would totally do.
Yeah, I mean, what it comes down to is what rules are being broken. I don't think stream sniping should be against the rules of any game, personally. That should be against the rules of Twitch, which I believe it is. But like, you don't have to stream the game that you're playing. That is a choice outside of the game that you have made, and I don't think it's on the game to fix that problem. Now, however, and I think that this is like a distinction between Final Fantasy and WoW maybe. I think that these people, it's not that they are being banned for stream sniping. I think they're just being banned for harassment. And if you had done this to
Right.
a
They're
random player in
bullies.
the game, I think that they could have received these bans for that reason. And I think that's where the distinction comes in. Like, are they
Yeah, that's
breaking
the
the
thing.
rules of the game or not? And it should be
Yeah, I mean,
unrelated to Twitch.
Yeah, when you have a stream on, it's the harassment is a lot more visible,
Yeah.
and you have literal proof. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of a
there's
lot
no
easier to
question
make your
about it,
case.
Oh,
right? Yeah.
speaking of which, Willie, I remember when you first started streaming, I caught your first stream and I was like, bro, you got to blur that chat. And I noticed that you did that pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't streamed much since, but no, it was interesting to try it out on the main channel a bit. I don't know what I'm really gonna do with it moving forwards, but yeah, I mean, everyone in the WoW scene seems to do it, so I was like, yeah, I better do that. You just never know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
But
you had some pretty good ones, and you did a good job of like keeping up talking to chat. See, that's my biggest problem. I had to forget about chat. Then I look over, I'm like, oh crap, you asked something. Oh, you're gone now, though.
yeah, I guess it was just trying to do everything on the I don't know, on the main channel. It felt like it got a bit clogged up, and I tried the other channel, and I was like, I don't know how much I feel like I don't know how people who stream TBC like regularly do it.
Yeah, they have to keep
Um,
talking
yeah,
constantly, and like
yeah.
it's
I'm
it's
like,
a lot.
but what are you doing when you log in? I feel like people just react to stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah. But the other thing, streaming with Ashes of Creation specifically, when that goes live, that is going to be it's not going to be a game to stream. I'm just saying
Really?
it now. There's no PvE servers. Everywhere's
Oh,
PvP.
Bob's
There
dream.
is a system in the game whereby when you actively attack someone who isn't flagged, they've got like a whole flagging system of stuff. And when you kill someone who's basically unflagged, you gain corruption, you do less damage, and when you gain enough corruption, eventually you'll start dropping your items. But I think that there's a will to
interesting.
grief. There is a way.
So I don't know. Did you ever play Ultima Online?
No, I've heard of it though.
So this was my favorite game of all time. It was basically the first MMO that I ever played. It was glorious, and there will never be another game like it. I mean, Dust is kind of like it now, but there will just never be another game like it because there were the sheep that couldn't protect themselves that were in the game, and those people will just never be on a PvP server ever again. So I hadn't heard about all PvP on Ashes of Creation. That could be a
Mm.
thing, but people all played it because it was the only option for MMOs. So it 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 basically worked on a notoriety system. So if you murdered somebody who wasn't flagged gray, like if you stole from somebody, like pickpocketed, or if you attacked a guard or something, you like there were different ways you'd go gray. Then anybody could attack you at that point without any notoriety loss. But if you just
Yeah.
murdered somebody who was actively tagged blue, you would start going down to like you turn into like the Notorious, and then you turn into like a Dark Lord, and then a Dread Lord, and then you became attackable by anyone at any time, Dread Lords or people that were blue. These people were known as
Yeah.
PKs, player killers, and you
Yeah.
couldn't go into towns. You lost a ton of different benefits, but a ton of people did it, and it was so fun. It was so cool. Like,
Yeah,
and
that's I
if
mean, that's what
anybody
they're trying to bring
died,
back.
you could loot everything that they had. Everything on them,
Yeah.
you could
That
just
is a
loot.
brutal game.
Oh, dude, it was brutal. But like, what you ended up doing is you would have go packs. Like, you would have a pack that like had everything that you needed, like a weapon, regents, yada yada yada. And you die, and then you'd go. Sometimes you could get all your stuff back if they couldn't get it to their house or the bank first. You could rob their house. You could get your house robbed. I mean, it was a really cool
Yeah.
game, and something that'll probably never exist again in that
Yeah.
type of thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have
I
to,
think that's what
check
they're
out
trying to bring
Ashes.
back. Yeah, I mean, it's like a bunch of years off at the moment. There's footage up at the moment. They've dropped the NDA, so you can watch where it is at the moment, but it's very early on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how it's going to be in terms of streaming, because is I don't know. You can
On like a
have a bunch of
massive
people. You
delay,
could just have
maybe.
like a bunch of people zerg you. I
'Cause-
think if you got delay, it kind of defeats
Yeah.
the point a bit, really.
It really does, because then you can't talk to chat.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe the corruption system to deter like literally just ganking is so strong that people don't do it. Because there are designated PvP areas like sieges and escorts and various different things where you won't get any kind of flagging disadvantage. You'll just be able to do it normally. But still, I think if you're a big streamer playing that game, it's gonna be one hell of an experience. I think it'll be like Phase 2 in Classic, except there's no factions either, so it'll be Asmongold versus the world.
I said that the first time we talked about the same BGs. I was like, what if everybody's red if they're not in your group? What would happen then? I'm just curious.
Be
Yeah.
guild based. People forget who it was. Maybe I think someone in chat a couple weeks ago was saying it should be Aldor versus Scryer PvP in
Yeah.
Outland, not faction based.
That'd be
Dude, it's so annoying. It's one of the most annoying things ever is that I can't have my enemy nameplates on when I'm in chat because it's so overwhelming. There's just so many horde in there.
Yeah. And also, if you have them on and you're in like a neutral city, like will let you attack. If you have those nameplates on, you right click the mailbox. Normally, it clicks through them, but with the nameplates on, it starts attacking them, and you're like, dang it.
I totally forgot. I
Instant
brought Bingo, who's playing a Draenei now, to chat. Totally forgot that Draenei start, I think, unfriendly with the Scryers. And I brought him to the bank, and I was like, "This is the bank," and he's like, "I can't talk to anybody here." And I was like, "How could that? This is your first time here. You can talk to these people." I was like, "You can
Dude.
definitely use this bank." And then I
Yeah.
realized, like,
Dude,
this is your Draenei.
The
Whoops.
first time we went to chat was day one, and Viscount goes up to the Aldor pier, and he thought he had picked the wrong faction for the quest. But he hadn't done the quest yet. But he thought he somehow, like, because he had auto quest
Yeah.
on, and he got killed up there, and he didn't know why, and we didn't find out till later that
That's
that
what
was a thing.
I thought Bingo had just done the quest, and I was like, "You idiot! You picked already. What the heck?"
Yep.
I did that in beta. I like just accidentally picked.
Yeah,
At least I
that's
learned in beta.
Questy auto turn in is pretty rough for that. If you didn't want to go Aldor, it's kind of a bummer.
Well, no, it's just that it like shows up 2 quests, and I was just questing, so I was
Oh,
just
you just picked a
used to
random
picking
one.
Oh
up
wow!
quests, right? So I just picked the first one, and it was Aldor, and
Gotta
it was fine 'cause I
read.
needed Aldor. But
Like, hey, congrats.
That's
yeah,
Well done.
hilarious.
I was like, I didn't know I had to pick. I feel like it should like show you that you need to pick one or the other. Like you can't pick up this other quest if you
Gotta
already
read
picked
the
this one.
text. You gotta read the quest text.
I've
What you have to
not
do,
read
and
any
what
of the
no
quest
one does,
text.
listen. Everyone wants to skip the Khadgar's like Void Walker that walks you around or whatever. and tells you all about. I don't even know what that thing is
Because it's like
because I don't pay
15
attention.
minutes.
It's interesting. It gives you the backstory of the city, who the Aldor and Sky are, and then when you get back, he says, "Pick one," and it's like,
Well, we
if
will agree
of
to
course,
disagree that that was fun.
If it was voice narrated, I'd do it.
I'm just saying that that's
What if it
why
was
I
all a
think,
cutscene?
yeah, it could have been.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying I think that's why it's just 2 quests, is because they expected you to like go on this 10-minute journey, and then at
Don't
the
expect
end
me to
you pick.
read.
You can skip it.
Yep, you definitely
Yeah, you just wait right at the end or
Eh,
something.
that
Yeah,
one
you can get
Only
and
if
credit
other
from
people are
people's
doing
turn
it.
in. You can get credit from anyone's one, yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but only like now it's much harder to do because
So,
Oh yeah,
Yeah, 'cause people aren't doing as much.
I remember I did it once and it took like 30 seconds and I completed it.
But you
Yeah.
could still
Oh,
do it
nice.
and just go make a sandwich.
yeah,
like just-
whenever you're on lunch, you can.
you could
log
also do the one that we were really worried about, the Caverns of Time starting quest, where she walks around the circle. You can just stay there, and if someone kills you, as long as you don't release before she comes back, you get credit too, and then you can just release and res, and
Yeah.
boom, you're done.
dude, we've
Yeah,
killed
cool.
so many horde that are walking around with that person. It's glorious.
horrible.
They probably deserve it.
Well,
They did,
it
100%.
was great. We were waiting to do our quest, and I was on the warrior, and then like I had 3 other druids that were just, or no, I had
Stealth.
no, it was
2
3.
druids and a rogue.
Yeah.
2 druids
And
and a
they're
rogue.
just stealth right there. Then these 2 horde would come up and be like, "Oh, we're gonna gank you," and then
They try to gank Bob, and we
everybody
all just
comes
come
out.
in.
Yeah, it was great. It was like, yeah, you should have thought twice, bro. Oh man, but
Yeah.
That story usually goes the opposite direction, but this specific moment, it was ours.
we kind of own in the open world, like us specifically, but we're also PvP spec'd and everything else. So I don't really run around the open world now with Lockdude. Like it kind of he just chills in town, really. All right, guys. Well, I think we all kind of agree that, yeah, streamers should get special privilege. It sucks, but I mean,
It doesn't suck. I mean, they're doing a service.
no, it sucks for
to the
regular
game.
people
But
that don't
I
like
disagree.
streamers.
Like, okay, you don't like streamers, but you know about this streamer, and you obviously maybe
Not
watch
me.
this streamer.
I like streamers. I'm saying for the people that don't like streamers, it sucks.
But that's what I'm saying is that if you don't like streamers and you don't like streaming, then don't watch the streams.
Well, I think the problem comes in is, imagine in phase 2 you're getting ganked into Dire Maul, and then anyone who ganks Asmongold on the way to get Dire Maul gets banned for it. Like, you would be upset by that. You'd be like, what the hell? Like, I'm also being harassed and no one's doing anything about it. Like, I think that's
Yeah.
where it comes into play, is
Yep.
when that sort of thing can happen. But
I
I don't know.
guarantee you're not getting ganked as much as Asmongold while he's streaming. Like, I don't know.
It depends on the circumstances, and I think that it should be, as long as if you're breaking the game rules to that level of harassment, I think it's really bad. And if you watch any of Asmongold's stream, I think that like where this screenshot of someone getting banned came from is someone who was blocking him from actually being able to click on NPCs with their like large mount, and did it for hours. So it's sort of like,
Oh my god, yeah.
you know,
like,
I
he
think it
can't
was
play the
3
game.
hours he was doing it.
Like, you have to understand, like, he can't play the
Yeah.
game at that point, so he can't
Yeah.
promote the game.
That's like
so the
harassment,
developers
yeah.
have to be like, okay, no, you can't do this.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like the
you're
people that
hurting
used
us.
to stand on flight paths. Like,
Ugh.
dude, it's hilarious now though, because they
Man.
made a change. I think it came in TBC, but it's everywhere now. Like people will try to do it. Like there's these stupid druid bears that'll stand on the auction house guy. But it's like, dude, I can click right through you now. They made a change. I could click right. I don't know if that
Yeah.
was in TBC, but I know it's in now because I could click through anybody standing on anything, and it's just like, what are you doing now, dude? You're trying to troll, and it's not trollable.
No, it's like in the pre-patch when you not even the pre-patch, but before that when you had the new races out, the new race classes, and you go in your starting zone, you'll be like, wow, I can't wait to learn my level 6 shaman abilities, and there's just like somebody killing the shaman trainer repeatedly for hours, and you're like, god damn it,
Oh
man.
no.
Oh. We
Why?
actually, yeah, I'm not super proud of it, but we might have killed a few flight masters in Fellwood during
They deserved it.
during the last phase of Classic WoW.
There's something just like there's just like some pleasure you can gain from if you're ganking people in a zone and then you kill their means of escape. Like you're like, nope, you
And
can't
it's
run
something to
either.
gain because you felt so oppressed, right? And you're almost like rioting and rallying together to like not feel so oppressed. And you're just like, and I'm gonna kill your flight master.
Yep.
Ha!
Well, and like what I love about PvP servers is normally we don't just gank the horde out. That's why I love the spy add-on, because I can remember who was a dick and I can always go after them. But then like we intermingle with horde all the time. In fact, we actually helped a horde do his group of two and my group of two, me and Mel, both helped each other with two group quests in
Shadow Moon Valley.
Yep. Yeah, and I
Okay,
mean,
this
like
is the most hilarious
I mean,
thing,
it was
though,
funny, you know, like we had a
because
good time,
Yeah.
like, and you could do that.
they helped us. He helped us, and I was like, I think he's helping us because he wants us to help him when he does it, and he totally did. And then it was like 15 minutes later, and he like flies on top of me and is just like flying and spinning and going up and down, and I was like, I don't know what you want.
It was
I don't. I
it was
don't
the
know.
follow-up quest to it.
Right, but I was like, I can't understand what you're saying. I don't know what you want. And he just kept like flying up and down. And so like I followed, or like I got on my mount and I was like, okay, what do you want? And we like started to fly somewhere and I was like, okay, this is just ridiculous. I'm not gonna like, we're not friends. Like we were just in the same spot at the same time. I helped you out.
We're not friends. I imagine like just lore wise, the PvP in TVC is pretty funny because you'll be in Shattrath and they'll be like, "We need you to clear out this like great evil in the dungeons to the south," and then just imagine looking down there and the Horde and Alliance are just murdering each other outside of them, just slaughtering each other. It's like
Yeah.
I asked all of you to get to this. What are you guys doing?
Yeah. No
My
summoning
favorite is
stones allowed.
yeah, right.
Oh
Bob and
man.
I have
No, we're
always
gonna be
been
the
Albert
heroes.
and Scryer, right? So like one is one and the other is the other. And trying to coordinate our quests so that they're the same is like the first time we did it was rough, right? Like in Netherstorm, it was like, oh, you don't have the mana crystal yet? Like, oh, now I have to kill these guys because I need a drop from these guys after your 25 kill quest. And it was just like, but then the next time when we leveled our druid and warrior, we were like, okay, we know that these quests go together. So if I have to kill something, you need a drop. And if you have to kill something, I need a drop. So if we don't have this quest, we're not going to go there yet.
All right, well,
Yeah. How it goes.
do you think we have enough time to hit this last topic, or you guys want to hit it? Do you guys want to hit the road?
Hit the road. Jack, don't you come
Don't
back.
you come back no more, no more, no more, no more.
I'm
Yeah,
good.
sure, can do.
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
talk about
just
it.
All right,
wrap
all right.
it up. Yeah.
So
Put
the
it out.
next topic is something I've seen quite a few YouTube videos on it, and people are saying that people are quitting TBC Classic. So it got me to thinking. So I just went to the only place I know to look to see if people are like actual data that will show me something. And most of the servers that I checked out, and I checked out a good 20 of them, I think I only found 1 out of 20 that had actually not increased in amount of raiders on the server every week. Like there was one server that was going down, but the rest of the servers were going up every week, and like there's more people raiding. And I think there might be this perception just out in the world that there's less people playing because maybe there's more people raid logging. So I was curious if you guys had any thoughts on this, because I really don't think people are quitting TBC. I just think they're getting their shit done, and if they only have one character, then they're raid logging, which I've always said I think is an okay thing.
Well, I think there's also some discrepancy, like we talked about earlier, right? Where that Ironforge dot whatever it isn't capturing the PvP aspect of it, right? So maybe the people that came to Classic TBC that predominantly wanted to PvP and saw how long this was going to take and how outgeared they were by people doing Kara and other things, they left.
I
And they were
will
like,
say it does
no, that's
track
not worth it.
PvP too, and the majority of the servers were having it
I thought you said
tracks.
it only, we literally talked about this
That's
earlier, that it only
that's what I
tracks raid
thought
logs.
until I look. But go ahead and click on one of those servers, scroll to the bottom, and it shows people who have joined a BG.
Oh.
And I
So,
think
yeah,
they
updated
have to
that
be.
very recently.
Do they have to be logging when they join the BG? That's my guess. Is that's the only way they're able to pull the data, unless there's an API that I don't know about.
I thought that was off Arena, not BG's.
Could be. Well,
Oh, okay. Yeah. It could
so
be.
it's basically there is a decline there on lots of the servers that I've seen, but as far as rating, it looks like it just keeps
Well,
growing.
No, I don't have a fully fleshed out opinion on here. If someone had like a reason people are quitting, I could address that better. But the biggest, I mean, the devil's advocate to go against the Ironforge.pro is you just said that you had an alt that you just rated Karazhan with.
I
I
thought about that too.
So that it could be that people's alts are now hitting 70 as well. So
Right.
slow levelers are hitting 70, I'm sure, and that's increasing that population. But it wouldn't surprise me if also just the amount of alts who are getting up and also rating, because the content's really easy right now, could be a factor as well too. But I mean, people quitting TBC Classic, I don't know. I heard Classic WoW died the first week into Nax because people
100%.
don't play Nax
Yeah.
on private servers. So the game's already been dead for
Yeah.
this whole time.
Might as
So
well just
actually, it
give up.
died in phase 2. Now that I think about it,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like hysterics, clickbait content in my mind. People talking about games being dead.
Yeah, I
Personally,
think with with Ironforge, I mean, it says population of active characters according to raids uploaded. So I'm assuming they're going off every single report ever, not just the progress of guilds. Because if they went off progress, it'd be the first team you took through and cleared it, and that's it. You could do as many other runs as long as your characters are in the same guild. Your progress is still that like finite number. But if it's all reports ever, then yeah, it'll be counting alts. So depends how many people have alts.
Right.
Yeah, or just a main. But I think a lot of people are just. I personally, I'm treating phase 1 as like the preparation phase,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
because the raiding it doesn't take long if you're clearing things pretty smoothly at this point at all.
And it's like, don't burn yourself out right now. Like, you
Yeah.
know, have fun, do what you need to do, and now's the time to work up bolts, because I'm sure in the coming phases it might be a little bit more, you know, difficult tier levels and things. I hope.
It's gonna take the clears are gonna be a lot longer. Yeah. Probably not
Yeah,
gonna be clearing in one night anymore unless you raid for a
I'm
very long time.
I'm excited about that because it's been really pretty lackluster. Like the feeling of 25 minutes, like, oh, we're done. But I was
I mean,
looking forward to hanging out with
30
you
minutes.
guys.
I think last
Yeah,
week I
it's like
said it's
30
like
minutes.
sad because I see all these people who I don't see in my Karazhans, and it's just like, oh hey, and we're only here for a minute, and it's like a quick minute because I don't know, there's not a lot of trash where people are just like chit chatting. Where it's like if you're talking during these bosses, it's kind of just like, yo,
Stop
What are we
talking,
okay,
bro.
doing?
we're in the middle of
Yeah.
Growl, like
It's okay. I got healer chat going in our last 25 man again, so you know
that's
we've,
good.
Yeah.
we've got
I
that.
mean,
We've decided we need to like redo healer chat, because now there's a lot of people in there that are not healers anymore.
Yeah, and Warrior Chat was never big, but now Yip's just the only one
It's
in there
huge
during
now.
25.
Yeah, I talk to myself the
Yeah.
whole time in Warrior Chat.
Yeah. I'll say though, I was advocating for splitting up tier 4 and 5 on before TBC, and I still think it's
So
the
was
right
I.
choice, because you can if tier 5 was already out, then we're right now we'd be saying when tier 6
Well,
pretty
and
much.
I think you have to respect the arena aspect of the game, and if Tier 5 is out, it would be horrible for the people that couldn't, the PvPers that couldn't do Tier 5. Like it would be
It'd be great for Warriors.
bad.
Well, I
Be
also
amazing
think
for
too,
Warriors.
it's
Yeah.
given us this time to work up professions and work up alts and get those professions going, right? And I think that's probably why we're seeing that the market's a little inflated, and um, things don't cost as much, because people have that time to spend towards doing these other things. And I think once we get another tier in, it'll kind of continue, but it might be a little bit more time that you're rating instead of doing your professions and all of that. So I think it was a
Yeah.
good. I think it's a good balance. I mean, yeah, it doesn't take very long, but maybe that's the best thing when you go into a fresh like leveling experience. Like everybody was burnt out after the first couple days, right? After the first week of TBC coming out, we're all like, I never want to step into a dungeon again.
Yeah, we also sink
Yep.
a lot of time into the game. We're not average players, I guess, who
Right.
might not sink a lot of time. I was pretty the first like 2 weeks. I was like pretty anxious. Where every day I was like, I have so much to do. I have all this gold to make. I've got professions to get up. I've got badges to get. Like I have all these things I'm trying to do. I remember like the last hour before every Karazhan, I'm like running around, finishing the last
Yep.
touches before
Oh
I'm ready
yeah.
to go. So like, imagine having to do also tier 5. It just would have been very overwhelming, I think, to
Hmm.
I
start
think it
out.
would have been.
um
For sure.
and then I think one of the biggest problems is just the discrepancy between casual players and like the top level player, where right now it kind of gives everyone a chance to catch up. uh but if T5 was out and you weren't even in Karazhan yet at like this point, like that hunter who you invited who isn't even attuned to Karazhan, it just wouldn't feel good at all if people have been clearing T5 for weeks now and you're still just like, I just hit 70. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure out
Right.
what's going on. And
Yeah.
so I
Just so
And
think
why
that,
do
behind.
yeah,
Kara? You
yeah,
know, like
it's definitely not a lot to do once you're done with your character, but I think for the game as a whole, it allows people to take their time and prepare for the phase
Yeah.
that's
I mean
coming.
that
This,
that's the thing. Yeah. I mean you can't take content away, but you can bring it out early.
mhm.
yeah,
That's the main thing. So I'm
yeah,
glad they did it this way anyway. Even if
I am too.
might seem a bit quiet. Like I'd rather have a game where I can raid log and feel low as though I'm not falling behind, rather than a game where if I want to raid, I have to log in daily to do chores.
Yeah, I
yeah,
feel like that's not sustainable, right? Like you would get more people burn out and leaving if it required them to be on for multiple hours every day. That's why like I was having issues with my sound earlier. But when you said that all retail does is like look at engagement, or not all they do, but a lot of what they do is look at engagement, like why is that your metric that you're so concerned about? Because yes, that's fun, engagement is great, but you make the same amount of money if they are engaged or not in a month. And if people want to continue to play in a way, don't make it so they have to be engaged. Like make it so that it's fun to be engaged, or you get a slight benefit for being engaged, but not that you have to be engaged.
yeah. I think it's two things. The first, I have a feeling that there might be some correlation between like engagement levels like that and cash shop usage, because a lot of their money isn't from monthly subscriptions, but the cash shop. And then two, this kind of extends outside of game design. But when I worked at a software company, it worked just like this as well too, where you have different teams working on different aspects of the game. So like the people that created the Maw, for instance, which is a zone there, in order to determine whether or not that is a good zone, they want to measure how much people are going there and interacting with that particular thing. So whenever we had like a new tool that came out, the goal was to get engagement as high as possible for that tool, to so that people are using it. So it could just come down to, not it might not
That
even
makes
be
sense.
like an upper management thing. It could be, in order to justify what we've done, we want engagement to be high. But what that turns into is, okay, well then in order to raid, so like for the Maw, in order to get sockets before 9.1 and put gems in your gear, you had to go do these dailies every day. So
Right.
they're like, let's force people to go do it. And I think that
Right.
that's where things
Probably
get kind
connected
of
to their
bad.
bonus,
Yep.
right? Like if the
Yeah.
content you create has this much
In
engagement, you
case.
get a 20% bonus, right? They're like,
Mhm.
oh, we will
I mean,
make them
they
engaged.
did this in Mr. Pandaria. They had something called scenarios, which were 3-man content, and there was like over a dozen of them easily, and everybody only ever ran one of them called Battle on the High Seas, because you could get a ton of valor for it, and it took like 5 minutes. So it looked like scenarios were doing well, but people just like, I want to do this one because lots of valor. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And they got
Yeah.
rid
I
of
mean,
they got rid of scenarios after MOP as well.
yeah, but then I don't know if you've played after that as well too, but in Battle for Azeroth, they had, oh, what is it called? They would send you to an island. It was like three on three. It'd be Horde on one side and Alliance on the other, but it was like a PvP scenario or PvE race where you're like doing
Island
quests on the
expeditions.
island.
Yeah,
Maybe
I've
Island
played the
Expeditions,
That's
yeah.
what Steve said. I believe
Yeah, Island
too.
I see
That's
said it.
right,
Yeah,
yeah.
Island Expeditions, where it's like,
Mhm.
I don't know
There were
how much
PvP
other
versions,
people did
yeah.
them. I certainly did not after a while,
Yeah, I
where
did.
it's
I did
just
enough for my Azurite cap weekly, and I didn't touch the things. I don't think I ever did a PvP one
uh,
either. So yeah, I was just like,
yeah,
give me my whatever the points is for my weapon, and I'm done.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. And even the PvE ones though had like fake horde on the other side, right? If I recall, like they had,
They did, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But I
it's
mean,
funny.
people just turned it. You just pulled the entire right. It's like having a frost mage in a dungeon, right? The only limit is how many things you can pull.
Yeah.
Oh man, now you
So
guys
you
are
just pull
reminding
everything
me.
in a big ball AoE 'em.
You
There
reminded
you
me.
go.
What was it? Was it in Wrath or did it change at Cataclysm? So in Wrath, there's that big open world, like BG that comes out.
Wintergrass.
Yeah, and then at
Winterground, yeah.
some point, there was like no alliance doing it. So they, like, if there was less alliance in there, they'd get some sort of stat that was like a buff. So you'd have like
Yeah,
you'd have like like alliance players that were like boss level.
yeah,
What
yeah. They
was
would
that
try to balance
called?
Yeah.
it that way.
I haven't played an Alliance majority server, so I don't remember.
You guys,
Guess we
maybe
Huh.
never
that's
lost.
how they should. Maybe that is how they should fix battleground queues. They
Yeah.
should just say, okay, 10 horde for Warsong Gulch, and if there's only 2 alliance queued, they can pair up with them, but the
You
2 alliance equal 10 horde.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah. What if like
I saw someone suggest that, but without the buff. Just make the queues instant, and then however many alliance there are, throw them in.
No, that sounds awful.
Wow, that's
what if
just
Alliance on
silly.
minority servers, right? You have a gnome that's like 8 foot tall and has like 400% extra damage.
Right?
And that's
I
faction
can't
balance.
cast that yet.
Yeah.
Was
I'm
it
going
called
to get the
determination?
flag.
Wait, was the buff
They,
called determination? Because I think determination was in looking for raid. If you wipe in looking for raid, you get a
right.
stacking buff.
No, it was
5% didn't win.
tenacity. Tenacity.
Tenacity.
Because it
Okay.
was the same name as our like friend guild, which was tenacity.
There you go.
Oh, they did. They tried to do Wintergrasp again in Cataclysm, except it was called Tolbarad. And there's
Pulverad.
this hilarious exploit you could do where basically before you were about to to stop the imbalance with how many people are engaging with the content, which you had in Wintergrasp, they fixed the amount of people you could have in the zone at one time. So it'd be like, I don't know, 25 versus 25 or something, and it was like you had to cap a certain amount of flags and some other crap. I don't remember it exactly. And what happened is everybody would wait on the bridge going into Tolbarad because it's open world, it wasn't instant. And just as you're about to win, everybody runs over the bridge and gets the credit as if you would have won. And it was
Wha-
so you'd like suddenly have like 200
Wow.
people run across the bridge into the zone, and you'd all get credit for the win. And they
Oh
didn't
my
fix it
God.
for so long.
I was on a dead server then. I
Wow.
didn't know that existed. I wish I could have taken advantage of
You're
that.
missing
I
out,
just
yeah.
remember doing a
It's
bunch
like,
of
oh,
Tolverad.
Tolbarad, get on the bridge, do a
Wait,
countdown, run across, credit, great game.
that's hilarious.
Yeah, it was a good one.
All right, well,
God.
we kind of got off of the is TBC Classic dying, but I think we all agree that like probably a lot of people are taking some time off and plan to come back for the rest of the content.
I think it's still fun. I love
Yeah,
it.
and pop like raid completion is on the uprise, so I don't know what everybody's talking about, and we might just be lucky on white man, but like the server's populated. It's like shit ton of horde, but it's populated. Like there's a lot of
Yeah, it's
people running
populated on both
around.
sides. Like even if where there's
It
a
is.
disparity, there's still just a bunch of people in general.
Yep.
So like I have read accounts, especially with a lot of talk about faction imbalance recently of low pop like alliance servers where people are talking about how it takes like hours to find a tank. It's really hard to get heroic groups together, and I think unfortunately that is just a factor of low population in general on some of these servers. So
And people,
I have no doubt that it could be an issue somewhere.
yeah, if like I don't pug. I'm not good at pug.
Yeah, I don't either.
Like unless like the willing people in guild that I know what they're doing run out, I'm not gonna pug. So there's a ton of people like me too. Like if like your best bet's to get in a guild and try and work with those people, because a lot of trust comes into heroics, because it can be a big waste of time and a lockout for the day, especially if it's your daily heroic. So
I mean, you could spend 30 minutes getting a hunter to Karazhan and then realize he's not attuned in looking for group, you
yeah,
know? Like,
I mean, in the next phase, when gear changes, I think actually pugging will happen a lot more often, because people, the content will be basically debuffed with the amount of gear people have, and people will be more willing to take a chance.
I don't think so.
You
I
don't
think
think?
as gear gets better, I think people are gonna start saying, "Link me your armory." they're gonna be they're gonna be looking you up in the armories that
Yep.
exist now.
Come
Uh,
outside Elder Bank for inspection.
yeah, exactly. I
Oh,
think
well, I
that
you
mean,
still
that
have
is the
GDK
we
people
already
come back.
have,
Like,
yeah, we already have a weak aura to
Oh, yeah.
link your item gear score.
yeah.
I've got it.
True, actually. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
is my? I don't even know what my item gear score is. I wonder.
I could link you the weak
Epic.
aura after this.
So good.
All right, well, guys, I think that's going to end it out for this week's show. So we're going to go into closing out. But before, Yip had an add-on of the week that he wanted to do last week. So let's move into the add-on of the week.
So I'll keep it short and sweet this week. Just something I think, especially tanks, but I think more than tanks can use this too, is something called threat plates. It's pretty popular, and we've never talked about it though. But
I've
the
used
big
it
thing,
forever.
the big thing for threat plates originally is there's a visual aid to show you when you're losing threat. So threat on multiple targets is really hard to measure just with like a threat add-on, because it just tells you threat on that mob that you're targeting. So especially in dungeons, it can be hard to actually see your threat across multiple mobs. So threat plates just makes that more visual for you, but it also adds in a whole bunch of other nameplate benefits. The biggest one for me is the debuffs can show above the nameplates. So even if you have like a debuff timer, which I think actually might exist across TBC now, but in Classic you had to have a debuff timer, or you wouldn't see how long a debuff would last on a mob. These also can put them above the nameplate, so you can see when your sunder stacks are going to fall off another mob, even if you're not targeting at that time. So that sort of thing is really useful. I think it's really useful in PvP as well too. But it's pretty popular. But if you're not using it, you should definitely check it out. It just gives you more information while you're playing the game, which means the game will get a little easier for you. Which I've pugged a lot of heroics, and some people could use that.
Yeah, and don't think that this is just a tank thing. This is huge
Oh yeah,
for
it's for
DPS, for heals, because what it does is it basically changes your, if you hit V and turn on enemy nameplates, it changes them to a like a pleasing graphic too, instead of the basic graphic that is not very pleasing. It gives you a lot of information, and as a DPS, I'm sure as a heal too, it'll let you see, like, if you're like for warrior, it's great, because if you're in arms or in berserker stance, if you get aggro, it shows the mob as red, and then like it shows green if you don't have aggro. But then if you're in protection stance, defensive stance, it actually flops it for you, because it knows that green is good. So if you have aggro, it's green. If you don't, it's red. It's a really good add-on. I can't believe we've never talked about it here.
Yeah, me neither. I realized we hadn't, and thought that was a good one to throw in, because it is really useful. You gain a lot of information with just a simple change, and it's also pretty appealing. Like Bob said, is like there are a lot of like UI overhaul add-ons like LVUI and stuff like that, but for simple changes, like nameplates in WoW are kind of
And
they're kind of
in
ugly, and they're not great or anything. So threat plates is really nice to have. Even if you don't need all that extra info, I still think they just look nicer.
Yeah, you talked about PvP, and it's so nice in PvP, because when you're in a big old brawl, especially if you're melee, everybody's got a counter. Like, and I see, ooh, priest, ooh, warlock, ooh, hunter. Like, I see, because it changes the color of that class on your plate itself. So it's a big indicator of, oh, this is a guy I counter. I could go after him first. Yeah, you should definitely have it.
Definitely worth testing out at least. I think you won't go back, even if you don't need all that info. I just don't think you'd go back.
Yep. All right, guys, don't forget
I'll try it. I don't have it yet.
Oh, really? Huh. That
No.
might you were talking about healing threat the other day. That might really help you out a lot. I didn't even think to mention it, especially now that you can make your nameplate distance further. So that's
Yeah.
actually really cool.
I
Okay.
always just laugh though.
True.
Like we were talking about it the other day, and healer threat is like, okay, what do you do though? Like you just let the tank die because you've got threat. Like
I feel like
you're
that's
getting too
priest
high. Like
things. I've only had issues with priests and healing threat.
leave us alone. I have
Hey,
more issues on my druid than my priest. My priest has fade. My druid, I take aggro, and I'm like, okay,
Bear form.
Your druid has bear form and pray.
yeah.
that's true.
Because-
Bear form is actually pretty useful. Pulling like one mob.
No, it is not. It is not useful at all. It
Not
is
I don't know.
like
tank much, but
it allows me to survive an extra half a second. Is pretty much what I get from bear form. I mean, I don't have
if
very
you're
good
in
gear.
full leather, if you're in full leather in bear form,
Yeah.
you can
But I'm
take
not.
care.
Yeah,
I'm a
if
healer. Like I
okay.
need cloth.
if you're
like-
if you're a healer in PvP, full bear, full PvP gear, you're almost freaking
That's fine.
impossible to kill in bear form.
PvP is fine. Like I can't fade PvP either. Like I don't need threat plates for PvP. I need threat plates for PvE, but it's like, okay, I've got threat, but I either heal again or Yip dies. Like,
Die. I don't know.
yeah, you want me to
Heal me.
heal again?
Heal me.
All
die.
right. Well, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at WC Reloaded. You can also follow the Mash Those Buttons Network at the Mash Network. If you want to send us something a little longer, and we did get some pretty long emails this last week, and we loved them, so keep them coming. You can send those to wcrpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to join our Discord and make it actually active, you can do so by going to mash.gg/Discord. How can you help the podcast out? Well, you can tell people about the podcast. That is always the best. Word of mouth is huge. If you tell your friend to check us out, he probably will. If you post something on a random Discord, maybe not. But just tell people about the show. If you want to help us out even further, you can go to Apple Podcasts, leave a review there, or on warcraftradio.com/directory. You can leave a review there. People have been sending us reviews on, in game and in Discord. And while that doesn't really help us grow, we really appreciate it. So thank you for
Those are good,
those
too.
two. And yeah, that's about best way you can do to help us. But for now, we're going to get out of here. Yep. Where can we find you?
You can find me at Cognitive Pit on Twitter, on YouTube, youtube.com/Cognitive Pit. And the other way that you can help us is just pocket heal Bob if you see him in a BG.
Oh, please. Thank you.
No, peel for Mel. This is how you can help. Okay. You can
And
find me on Twitter at Mel Overwatch or in game on Mel Arena or Arielina. Okay. So if you feel so inclined to say that I'm better than Bob, I'll shout you out.
well, I mean, they don't have to say that. They just know it's true. But WillE, where can we find you?
pretty simple. WillE on YouTube and MMO WillE on Twitter. That's it for the time being.
And that's WILLE.
There we go.
And you
Yep.
can find me on Twitter at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. Haven't been streaming, but I'm going to be back to it next week. That's twitch.tv/BlazinBob. Sorry for the lapse, but I've been tired. So, all right, guys.
Bye.
Thought it was going to be a short episode, but
Yep.
Never.
Classic mistake.
Apparently not.
Yeah. It's just never when it comes to classic WoW. We get how long we've been
nearly
doing
2.5.
this.
Yes, it is totally the meme that I always thought this was going to be a short episode. We just talked about guild stuff for the first hour and 15 minutes last episode.
It's actually your fault. When you say it might be a
Mhm.
short episode, it makes us think that we can talk
We
more
have
on
to
a subject.
expand.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
like not that we have to, but like we can. A lot of the times when there's a lot on the docket, it's like, oh, I better not go on a tangent here. But
I'll
it's gonna
save
be a
that one.
short one.
You're
I
actually
can
seeing
Maximum pad.
right into what I do. Like you'll notice we're a little light on content when I say that, and yeah. All right, well, thank
Bye.
thank you guys, everybody in stream. Thank you for hanging out, and we will see you guys next week.